Listen. Practice. Speak. Practice makes you perfect.
Welcome to a new deep dive. Today, we're embarking on an in-depth exploration into the precise language of finance. Specifically, how top professionals navigate those really critical business conversations. We're drawing from a truly fascinating source, a series of dialogues about finance, meticulously crafted to teach not just financial concepts, but, the art of professional communication within that world.
Right.
Our mission today is to peel back the layers of these conversations. We want to reveal not only the essential financial insights, but more crucially, the exact language, structure, and strategic cadence that makes these discussions so effective and professional.
Yeah.
Think of this as your practical playbook, maybe your shortcut to confidently discussing everything from quarterly results to global expansion plans, and truly speaking like an expert in finance.
And what's truly compelling about this source material, and what we'll really emphasize throughout this deep dive, is its powerful dual purpose. It offers a clear window into the vital financial metrics and the strategic considerations that, underpin major business decisions. But perhaps even more importantly, it models the clear, concise, and highly structured communication that is absolutely paramount in the financial world. We're dissecting not just what is being discussed, the hard numbers, the strategic choices, but vitally how it's being discussed. We want to offer you practical, actionable nuggets for your own professional interactions and help you master the art of financial conversation, making your contributions impactful and, authoritative.
All right, let's dive in then. Let's unpack our first major financial blueprint, the quarterly financial statements. These are essentially the fundamental report card of any company, giving you a really comprehensive snapshot of its performance.
Yeah.
Our source kicks off with a classic, highly professional opening. Have you had a chance to review the quarterly financial statement?
Yeah, very standard.
It isn't just a polite inquiry, is it? It's a perfect example of initiating a discussion that sets a clear agenda, inviting immediate engagement without being overly demanding. It establishes the topic and confirms readiness right from the get-go.
Indeed. What's particularly insightful here is how the conversation then systematically addresses the three key financial statements, extracting immediate and actionable insights. This structured approach is absolutely vital for clarity and efficiency in real-world, high-stakes financial discussions.
Definitely.
When you're in a critical meeting, you simply don't have time for ambiguity or, aimless chatter. This dialogue moves seamlessly from the income statement to the balance sheet and then to the cash flow statement, ensuring all critical aspects of financial performance are covered logically and efficiently. It's really a masterclass in organized thought.
Absolutely, and it logically starts where it should, with the income statement. That's all about gauging performance and profitability over a period, right?
Exactly.
The first question dives right into the lifeblood of any business revenue. The query, how does our revenue compare to last quarter? Immediately sets the stage. The response here is unequivocally positive, noting a 12% increase compared to the previous quarter, immediately highlighted as a positive trend. Now, consistent revenue growth isn't just a basic number. It's a primary foundational indicator of market success and operational effectiveness.
It certainly is.
It implies the company is effectively selling more, maybe selling at higher prices, expanding its customer base, or, a healthy combination of all three. For any business aiming to thrive and scale, this is the first crucial metric.
And following revenue, the dialogue swiftly moves to dissect operating expenses, revealing a 7% rise. But critically, it doesn't stop there. It immediately explains the fundamental drivers behind this increase: increased marketing efforts and new hires.
Okay.
This is where the numbers truly come to life, demonstrating how financial figures are directly linked to strategic business decisions and deliberate investments. Understanding the why behind expense fluctuations is paramount. These aren't just arbitrary costs. They are, in this case, calculated investments aimed at fueling future growth.
Right.
A truly effective financial conversation never just states the numbers. It meticulously contextualizes them, revealing the strategic intent behind the figures.
And despite that expense increase, here's a subtle but powerful twist, a true financial nugget, as you called it. Profit margins still improve slightly, moving from 18% to 19.5%.
Yeah, that's interesting.
For someone new to dissecting financials, that might seem counterintuitive. What's the hidden trick, or rather the underlying strategic move that allows for that?
Well, it's not really a trick.
No.
This isn't just a number, it's a masterclass in operational efficiency. It signals that management isn't just growing revenue, they're growing it more profitably.
Ah,
Meaning their strategic investments, like those new hires or marketing pushes, are generating more than their cost. This demonstrates healthy operational leverage, a powerful signal to investors and stakeholders looking for efficiency even amidst expansion.
precisely. Okay, so moving from performance, as seen in the income statement, to financial position, the conversation naturally pivots to the balance sheet. Think of the balance sheet as the company's financial selfie, a precise snapshot at a specific moment in time.
Good analogy.
Unlike the income statement, which is more like a video over a period, the balance sheet tells you precisely where you are right now.
Exactly.
The dialogue focuses first on liquidity, specifically the current ratio. This ratio improved from 1.8 to 2.1, indicating a stronger short-term liquidity position.
And what that 2.1 really tells you is that they now have over twice the assets readily available to cover their immediate liabilities.
Right.
This isn't just good. It provides a significant cushion against unexpected operational demands or market shifts, making the company exceptionally nimble and resilient to short-term pressures.
That's a clear sign of improved financial footing, offering significant peace of mind. Next, they tackle leverage, specifically the debt-to-equity ratio.
Yep, another key one.
This ratio decreased from 0.7 to 0.6, showing reduced reliance on debt financing. This is a critical insight into financial stability and prudent risk management. The debt-to-equity ratio gives you a direct indication of how much of a company's assets are financed by debt versus shareholder equity. A lower ratio means the company is less reliant on borrowed money.
Which significantly reduces its financial risk.
Exactly. And generally makes it far more attractive to potential investors, creditors, or even strategic partners. It implies greater financial independence and a robust capacity to weather economic downturns.
And directly linked to that reduced debt, we see a tangible benefit. Interest expenses decreased by 8%, which contributed positively to our bottom line.
Oh, makes sense.
This illustrates the compounding ripple effects of prudent financial management. When you strategically reduce debt, you're not just improving your balance sheet's overall health, you're also directly cutting down on a recurring expense that eats into profits.
Yeah.
This is a practical, immediate example of how shrewd financial decisions cascade through the entire organization, translating directly into improved profitability and greater retained earnings.
Excellent. So we've covered the P&L and the balance sheet, the performance and the position. But as the old adage goes, cash is king. What does this source tell us about the actual lifeblood of the business? It's cash flow. The discussion moves to the cash flow statement, which is all about understanding how cash is generated and, crucially, how it's used. The conversation highlights a robust 15% increase in operating cash flow, primarily driven by improved collections and inventory management.
And strong operating cash flow is absolutely critical for business sustainability and future growth, as it directly represents the cash generated from a company's core operations.
Right.
It's the purest indicator of how well a business is generating cash from its primary everyday activities, distinguishing it from cash obtained through financing or investing.
And even with that strong internally generated cash flow, smart companies make strategic investments for the future. The dialogue details specific capital expenditures. A significant $2 million in new equipment, and another $1.5 million in software upgrades. These are concrete examples of how cash is strategically deployed for long-term assets, things that will underpin future growth, enhance operational efficiency, and strengthen the company's competitive position.
What's particularly impressive is that despite these substantial investments, free cash flow still increased by a healthy 5%.
That is impressive.
This is vital. Free cash flow is essentially what's left after all capital expenditures, and it's a crucial indicator of a company's ultimate financial flexibility. It shows how much cash is genuinely available to pay dividends, reduce debt further, or fund even more growth without needing external financing.
Finally, the source mentions maintaining a quarterly dividend of 50 cents per share, which is in line with our dividend policy.
Consistency is key there.
This isn't just a simple payout. It demonstrates consistency and a clear ongoing commitment to shareholders, signaling stability and a predictable return on their investment. It's about striking that critical balance between funding internal growth initiatives and consistently rewarding those who have invested their capital in the company.
Exactly. And bringing all these threads together, the conversation then smartly synthesizes the key financial strengths identified across all three statements. improved liquidity, increasing revenue, and strong cash flow generation.
Three pillars.
These three pillars are absolutely fundamental to robust financial health, collectively signaling a company that is not only resilient and stable, but also growing vigorously and capable of internally funding its ongoing operations and future strategic investments. It's a truly holistic view of financial well-being, presented concisely.
But it's not just about celebrating the good news, is it? A pragmatic and forward-looking approach is evident in acknowledging the need to keep an eye on our operating expenses and look for ways to improve efficiency without compromising growth.
Right, you can't get complacent.
This emphasizes a culture of continuous improvement and a realistic strategic mindset. No company operates in a vacuum of perfection, and openly acknowledging areas for improvement demonstrates realistic and agile leadership, signaling that they're never resting on their laurels.
And to provide critical context and demonstrate accountability, the discussion concludes by comparing the results to the annual forecast. The company is tracking slightly above our annual forecast, with revenue 3% higher and net income 2% above projections.
Which is great news.
Excellent news. It showcases not only strong performance in absolute terms, but also highly effective forecasting and disciplined execution against predefined expectations. It provides a complete, reassuring picture, linking past performance directly to future outlook and strategic planning.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Having thoroughly analyzed the company's current financial health through its quarterly statements, the natural next step in strategic financial thinking is to consider how those hard-earned resources are being deployed for future growth and mitigated against risk.
Absolutely.
That brings us to the crucial domain of investment management. Our next conversation dives right into it, beginning with the fundamental question, what's our current asset allocation?
Yeah, the starting point.
This immediately tells you this isn't just about picking stocks. It's about strategically managing an entire portfolio for growth and risk, setting the stage for a sophisticated discussion on how a portfolio is structured to meet specific long-term objectives.
And this discussion, in turn, showcases how true portfolio management is far more than just stock picking. It's a dynamic balancing act of risk, return, and overarching strategic objectives. The detailed allocation and performance metrics outlined here offer clear insights into tactical financial decision-making, providing a practical template for how you can articulate and discuss your investment approach with confidence and clarity.
Kicking off with the current asset allocation, the portfolio is comprehensively broken down as 60% stocks, 30% bonds, and 10% cash equivalents.
Very standard mix.
This immediately highlights the critical concept of diversification across asset classes, a foundational cornerstone of any sound investment strategy. You're deliberately spreading risk, aiming for different types of returns to avoid putting all your eggs in one basket. Following that, the performance metrics are discussed. A solid 7.5% return over the past year, which is notably slightly above our benchmark of 7%.
Beating the benchmark is always good.
Exactly. This demonstrates successful performance not just in isolation, but critically against a predefined target or market index, emphasizing the paramount importance of benchmarks in objectively assessing investment success. It shows you're not merely performing well, but actively outperforming your targets.
What's also highlighted, and tells a more granular story, is being overweight in technology and healthcare, which have been driving our outperformance.
The sector bets.
Precisely. This reveals strategic sector bets, meaning the portfolio managers have deliberately allocated more capital to these sectors than their benchmark. This decision is based on deep market trend analysis and a clear understanding of where current and future growth opportunities lie. It's not just about broad asset allocation, but smart, targeted exposure based on conviction.
Now, navigating global markets comes with its own distinct set of challenges and complexities, particularly when it comes to emerging markets.
Oh, definitely. Volatility.
The source notes a 15% allocation to emerging markets, which has yielded mixed results due to recent volatility. This is a candid and realistic acknowledgement of the higher risk-reward profile inherent in these markets.
Yeah.
While they offer significant growth potential, they also come with inherent instability due to geopolitical shifts, economic policy changes, and currency fluctuations. It's an honest appraisal that while there's upside, there's also inherent unpredictability.
And given the current economic climate, which, let's face it, is often characterized by uncertainty,
True.
the suggestion is to increase our allocation to defensive sectors and reducing exposure to cyclical industries.
Okay, let's break that down for our listener. Defensive versus cyclical.
Sure, so defensive sectors, think utilities, consumer staples, healthcare, things people need regardless of the economy, tend to perform consistently.
Right.
Cyclical industries like automotive, manufacturing, travel, they're highly sensitive to economic ups and downs. They boom when the economy booms, but suffer in recessions.
Got it. So shifting to defensive is a cautious move.
Exactly. It's a prudent move, signaling a risk-averse approach during uncertain times, prioritizing stability over aggressive growth. For fixed income, the focus is on short to medium-term corporate bonds to balance yield and interest rate risk.
Why short to medium term?
Well, it shows a nuanced approach. You're aiming for a decent return or yield without excessive exposure to the potential erosion of value if interest rates rise, which impacts longer-term bonds more severely.
That's a truly clever way to manage risk, especially when the economic winds are shifting. And for international investments, where currency fluctuations can significantly erode returns.
Pretty risk there.
The discussion highlights managing currency risk by using currency hedging and diversification across different regions to mitigate risk.
So currency hedging involves using financial instruments, like forward contracts, to essentially lock in an exchange rate, protecting against adverse moves. Diversification, meanwhile, just means spreading investments across different countries and currencies, so a downturn in one doesn't hit the whole portfolio as hard.
Makes sense. These techniques are absolutely essential for anyone operating or investing internationally, allowing for more predictable returns.
The conversation then smartly explores new avenues that are reshaping modern investment portfolios, specifically alternative investments and ESG.
ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Seeing that everywhere now.
Absolutely. There's a small but strategic 5% allocation to alternatives, including REITs, real estate investment trusts, and commodities for diversification.
So alternatives are things outside traditional stocks and bonds.
Exactly, like real estate, private equity, hedge funds. They can offer different risk-return profiles and further diversify a portfolio, often providing returns that don't move in lockstep with traditional markets.
What's truly compelling isn't just that ESG investments are gaining traction, but that the rationale for integrating them is evolving, right?
Yes, that's the key shift. The source suggests exploring increasing our exposure to sustainable and socially responsible companies. This highlights a growing, profound trend in responsible investing.
But it's not just about doing good, is it?
Not anymore. The real insight here is the idea that ESG-focused companies tend to have better long-term sustainability, potentially lowering risk.
Ah, interesting.
This flips the old paradigm. It suggests that companies with strong ESG practices might be inherently more resilient to regulatory changes, supply chain issues, reputational crises, making them not just responsible, but often more robust and attractive long-term financial bets.
Critically, the discussion also addresses liquidity, a non-negotiable aspect of sound financial management.
Gotta have cash on hand.
It notes a cash position that covers about 6 months of operating expenses, which is firmly in line with established policy. This emphasizes the paramount importance of liquidity for operational stability.
Ensuring the company has enough readily available cash to cover its short-term needs without being forced to sell off assets at a loss or scramble for emergency financing.
Looking forward, the key economic concerns identified are inflation, interest rate changes, and geopolitical tensions.
The usual suspects lately.
These are universal, overarching concerns for financial strategists globally, constantly monitored for their potential wide-ranging impact on portfolio performance and the broader economic landscape.
Finally, they recommend quarterly reviews with rebalancing as needed, or if any asset class deviates more than 5% from our target allocation.
So it's not set and forget.
Absolutely not. This unequivocally underlines the dynamic nature of portfolio management. It's an ongoing, active, and disciplined process that requires regular attention and adjustment to maintain strategic discipline in the face of market volatility.
This raises an important question for you, the listener, to mull over. How does such active portfolio management, like the systematic rebalancing mentioned, contribute not just to maintaining financial health, but to actively achieving long-term investment goals amidst consistently fluctuating and often unpredictable market conditions? Is it simply discipline, or is there a deeper strategic advantage?
Worth thinking about.
Now, shifting gears from managing existing assets to blueprinting future operations. Budget planning.
Where strategy meets reality.
Exactly. This is where high-level financial strategy genuinely meets day-to-day operational reality. Our source frames this perfectly with a direct, highly professional query: where should we begin? Immediately setting the stage for a collaborative and comprehensive financial discussion that absolutely needs to involve multiple departments and perspectives.
And this section, for our listener, is truly a masterclass in how to approach budget planning systematically. It moves from reviewing past performance to projecting future needs, and crucially, to mitigating uncertainties. It's about building a robust financial framework, not just drawing up a spreadsheet of numbers, but understanding the narrative behind those numbers, the why and the how that define spending and investment.
The starting point for budget planning is always crucial. Reviewing last year's budget versus actual performance to identify any significant variances.
Got to learn from the past.
This highlights the crucial feedback loop in financial planning, a foundational principle of learning from the past to plan more effectively for the future. The conversation then drills down into major discrepancies, citing specific, tangible examples like overspending on marketing by 15% and underspending on R&D by 10%. This level of detail is key for actionable insights.
What's particularly insightful and sets this dialogue apart is that the reasons for these variances are explicitly provided, offering critical context.
Okay, like what?
The marketing overspend was attributed to an unexpected opportunity for a high-profile campaign, while the R&D underspend resulted from project delays.
So not necessarily bad management.
Exactly. This illustrates the real-world complexities that impact budget adherence. It's rarely a simple case of mismanagement, but rather a reflection of dynamic business environments, unforeseen opportunities, or unavoidable circumstances. A nuanced understanding of these drivers is vital for effective future planning.
Understood. So, taking those valuable insights from last year's budget variances, how do we blueprint a smarter, more agile financial plan for the year ahead?
Well, the source smartly suggests building more flexibility into the marketing budget for the coming year, directly acknowledging that strategic opportunities can, and often do, arise unexpectedly and require swift resource allocation.
Right. Got to be nimble.
And for R&D, the recommendation is setting clearer milestones for R&D projects to prevent future underspending, which emphasizes better project management, enhanced accountability, and more predictable resource utilization.
So a balance of flexibility and structure.
Precisely. That thoughtful balance is absolutely key to effective, responsive budgeting.
For revenue projections, which are the backbone of any budget, the recommendation is to use a bottom-up approach, starting with sales forecasts from each division and then aggregating them.
Makes sense. Get input from the ground level.
This emphasizes granular, highly realistic forecasting as it draws on the direct, on-the-ground expertise of those closest to the market and the customer. Furthermore, to account for inherent economic uncertainties, because a single projection is rarely sufficient, the strategic move is to create multiple scenarios, base case, optimistic, and pessimistic, to prepare for a range of different outcomes.
Scenario planning. Hugely valuable.
Why is it so valuable?
Because it forces an organization to think through various potential futures and develop proactive contingency plans, rather than relying on a single, often overly optimistic projection. It builds resilience.
Good thinking. Now, what about those essential cost-saving initiatives?
Always part of the budget discussion.
The discussion explores optimizing our supply chain and potentially renegotiating some of our long-term contracts. These are concrete, tactical measures that, when executed effectively, can yield significant savings, often without impacting core operations, product quality, or customer experience. They represent low-hanging fruit for efficiency gains.
And when it comes to handling departmental budget requests, the approach outlined is remarkably clear and promotes strategic alignment, requiring detailed justifications and tie them to specific KPIs, key performance indicators, or strategic objectives.
So no blank checks.
Exactly. This promotes robust accountability and ensures that every dollar requested is clearly linked to a measurable outcome or a broader overarching company goal. This fosters a culture where spending is not viewed as merely an expense, but as a deliberate, justifiable investment that contributes directly to strategic aims.
The source then outlines a proposed, highly realistic 2-month process for budget approval.
It takes time.
Which underscores the complex, company-wide nature of this exercise and the meticulous review it requires. And once approved, the dialogue wisely suggests monthly reviews for agility and necessary adjustments.
A budget isn't static.
Right. This acknowledges that it's a living, breathing document that needs continuous monitoring, adaptation, and responsiveness to real-time changes in the business environment.
Finally, the conversation touches on the critical tools and, crucially, the necessary buy-in for successful budget implementation. It recommends upgrading to cloud-based budgeting software for enhanced integration, which significantly improves data accuracy, real-time visibility, and accessibility across all departments.
Technology helps.
Absolutely. And perhaps most importantly, it emphasizes ensuring buy-in from all department heads by involving them early in the process and clearly communicating how their departmental budgets align with overall company goals.
Collaboration is key.
It underscores the highly collaborative nature of successful budgeting, where widespread acceptance and shared ownership are as vital as the numbers themselves.
Our journey continues, shifting focus now to proactively safeguarding the enterprise. Risk management.
A huge topic.
The opening here is direct and impactful, cutting right to the chase. What are our current top risks? This immediately sets a tone of proactive identification and mitigation, signaling that risk is not simply an afterthought to be managed reactively, but a central strategic concern that demands constant vigilance.
And this conversation brilliantly demonstrates a holistic and forward-thinking view of risk management. It covers everything from identifying immediate, tangible threats to considering more amorphous emerging challenges and then implementing sophisticated mitigation techniques. It highlights the dynamic nature of safeguarding a company's future, stressing that robust risk management is an ongoing adaptive process, not a static one-time assessment.
Starting with that crucial identification phase, the source explicitly names the current top risks: cybersecurity threats, supply chain disruptions, and regulatory compliance issues.
Yeah, the big three for many businesses today.
These are pervasive, critical risks in today's interconnected business environment that could, if left unchecked, cripple operations, damage reputation, or incur massive financial penalties. For each identified risk, specific existing mitigation measures are detailed, implemented advanced cybersecurity measures, diversified our supplier base, and established a dedicated compliance team. This provides concrete, actionable examples of proactive risk responses, demonstrating a mature and prepared approach to risk governance.
But beyond the immediate and well-known, the discussion smartly turns its attention to emerging risks, specifically acknowledging that climate-related risks are becoming more prominent.
That's a big one now.
Absolutely. This showcases truly forward-thinking risk assessment, recognizing that the landscape of potential threats is constantly evolving and expanding. The proposed approach is to conduct a climate risk assessment and develop specific mitigation strategies for identified vulnerabilities. This highlights the rapidly growing importance of ESG factors in modern risk management, integrating environmental considerations directly into the core business strategy and showing a commitment to long-term resilience.
That's a significant and necessary shift in focus for many companies. And what about traditional risk protection, especially for new and evolving threats like cyber?
Right. The source indicates reviewing and potentially increasing cyber insurance coverage given the rising threats.
Makes sense.
This demonstrates adapting to the evolving risk landscape, recognizing that threats like sophisticated cyber attacks are escalating in both frequency and sophistication, necessitating stronger financial safeguards and a robust financial safety net.
The frequency of risk assessment is also a key point that underscores discipline. They conduct annual comprehensive assessments.
Plus, quarterly reviews of our top risks.
Right. This structured, regular oversight ensures that risks are continuously on the radar.
However, recognizing the rapidly changing business environment, consideration is given to implementing a continuous risk monitoring system to stay more agile.
So, moving beyond just quarterly checks.
Exactly. This moves towards real-time vigilance, allowing for quicker, more agile responses to new threats as they emerge, rather than waiting for the next scheduled review.
That continuous monitoring is absolutely crucial for true agility in today's fast-paced world, and to ensure that risk awareness isn't confined to a select few, but is deeply embedded throughout the entire organization.
Culture is key.
The discussion proposes enhancing our risk training programs and integrate risk considerations into decision-making processes at all levels. This emphasizes fostering a pervasive culture of risk awareness, making every employee, from the front lines to senior leadership, an active participant and contributor within the overall risk management framework.
Finally, the conversation delves into sophisticated financial hedging and risk quantification techniques. The company explicitly states using forward contracts and options to hedge against currency and commodity price fluctuations.
Okay, so what are those exactly for the listener?
Sure. Forward contracts are basically agreements to buy or sell something at a set price on a future date, locking it in. Options give you the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell at a set price. They're advanced tools to manage exposure to market volatility.
And are they working?
Apparently so. Their effectiveness is stated quite clearly. They've been quite effective, reducing our exposure by approximately 60%. This provides a tangible measure of success, validating the strategic use of these instruments.
It's interesting how they acknowledge accepting some market competition risks as the cost of mitigation would outweigh the potential benefits.
Yeah, that shows maturity.
It highlights a strategic approach to risk acceptance, recognizing that not all risks can or even should be fully mitigated at any cost. Sometimes, accepting a calculated level of risk is the strategic choice.
And to quantify these accepted risks, which is vital for informed decision-making, they utilize scenario analysis and Monte Carlo simulations to estimate potential financial impacts.
Okay, Monte Carlo simulations sound complex.
They can be. Scenario analysis looks at a few specific what-ifs. Monte Carlo runs thousands, even millions, of random possibilities to give you a probability distribution of outcomes.
So not just if it could happen, but how likely different impacts are.
Precisely. It provides a much more robust, statistically backed understanding of potential exposure.
Okay, let's shift to a really big strategic move, a potential acquisition.
High stakes indeed.
It's one of the most transformative financial moves a company can make. Our source dives right into the heart of it, starting with the immediate pressing question, what's your initial assessment? Signaling a strategic discussion that demands immediate insight.
And this conversation for our listener truly reveals the multifaceted and incredibly complex nature of M&A, mergers and acquisitions. It comprehensively covers financial health, strategic fit, potential pitfalls, and the meticulous planning required for successful integration. It's a true deep dive into complex corporate finance, illustrating how every angle from numbers to culture must be rigorously considered.
The initial assessment of the target company is immediately positive. It shows strong growth potential and could provide significant synergies with our existing operations.
That's the strategic rationale right there.
Then, the financial health is scrutinized. A solid balance sheet with low debt, steady revenue growth of 15% year over year, and EBITDA margins around 22%.
Those are strong numbers, especially the EBITDA margin.
Why is EBITDA so important here?
Well, EBITDA earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization cuts through the noise of financing and tax structures. It gives you a clearer picture of core operational profitability. A 22% margin with 15% growth suggests a highly efficient underlying business model. Very attractive.
The valuation is also critical. The target is valued at 12 times EBITDA, which is slightly above the industry average of 10.
So they're paying a bit of a premium.
Right. The EBITDA multiple compares companies within an industry. Being slightly above average suggests the acquirer sees significant added value, likely due to that growth potential and the identified synergies.
So what specific synergies do they foresee? The source outlines two key types: cost synergies in operations and supply chain, and revenue synergies through cross-selling opportunities.
Okay, cost versus revenue synergies.
Cost synergies are savings from combining businesses, eliminating duplication, consolidating facilities, better purchasing power. Revenue synergies are about generating more revenue together, like selling each other's products to existing customers or entering new markets. These are the concrete financial benefits justifying the deal.
However, acquisitions are never without significant risks, are they?
Never.
The conversation proactively identifies integration challenges, potential culture clash, and the need for significant IT system upgrades.
The non-financial risk. Crucial.
These are critical considerations that can derail an M&A deal, even if the financials look perfect. A culture clash, for example, can destroy morale and productivity, undermining those expected synergies. Planning for these human and operational elements is vital.
And what about the financial impact on the acquiring company's balance sheet? The acquisition would increase the leverage ratio from 0.3 to 0.5, but importantly, that's still within a comfortable range.
So, more debt, but manageable.
Exactly. The leverage ratio shows how much debt finances assets. Increasing it means more borrowing, but staying comfortable indicates the company can still service its debt without undue strain.
For financing options, the source suggests a diversified approach, a combination of cash on hand, new debt issuance, and potentially a small equity offering.
Spreading the sources. Smart.
This minimizes reliance on one source and optimizes the cost of financing. The integration process timeline is estimated at a realistic 12 to 18 months for full integration.
M&A integration always takes time.
It provides a pragmatic timeframe for a complex undertaking.
Regulatory approvals are, of course, a critical hurdle. The source states they are not foreseeing major hurdles, but wisely emphasizes conducting a thorough antitrust analysis.
Gotta check the competition angle.
Absolutely crucial to ensure the acquisition doesn't unfairly reduce market competition, which could lead to regulatory blocks or fines.
Strategic alignment is clearly articulated. The acquisition aligns well with our goal of expanding market share and diversifying our product offerings.
That's the core justification.
This validation of strategic fit is paramount. The due diligence timeline is set at a rigorous 60-day due diligence period, followed by 30 days for negotiations and deal structuring.
An intense period.
It lays out a clear project schedule, emphasizing the meticulous scrutiny where every aspect of the target company is examined.
And the due diligence team itself, crucially, includes representatives from finance, legal, operations, and IT, as well as external advisors.
Needs all perspectives.
It highlights the truly interdisciplinary nature of robust due diligence. A comprehensive assessment absolutely requires a broad spectrum of expertise to ensure no stone is left unturned.
This truly raises an important question for you, the listener, to ponder. Beyond the financial metrics we've discussed, what is the single most critical non-financial factor that can either make or break an acquisition, and how can companies best prepare to manage it effectively?
Something to think about.
All right, let's talk about modernizing systems. In today's world, upgrading financial systems isn't just an IT project, is it?
No, it's a strategic imperative.
It drives efficiency and insight across the entire organization. The dialogue kicks off with a clear statement. We need to modernize our financial systems. This signals a crucial initiative, recognizing that legacy systems can hinder growth and decision-making.
And this conversation provides a compelling case for digital transformation in finance. It outlines the benefits, costs, risks, and strategic considerations. It's fundamentally about leveraging technology for a genuine competitive advantage.
The top priorities for this modernization are clearly identified: upgrading our ERP system, implementing a new treasury management system, and enhancing our data analytics capabilities.
Okay, let's quickly define those. ERP is enterprise resource planning, integrating core functions like finance, HR, supply chain. TMS is a treasury management system, specialized software for managing cash, investments, and financial risks.
And the expected benefits.
Tangible gains, improved efficiency, better real-time financial visibility, enhanced cash management, and more robust financial forecasting. These streamline operations provide deeper insights and enhance strategic decision-making.
Of course, projects like this aren't cheap. The estimated cost is a substantial initial investment of $5 million, with ongoing annual costs of about $1 million.
Significant, yes. But the projected ROI, return on investment, is equally compelling. 25% ROI over 5 years, primarily through cost savings and improved decision-making capabilities.
So it pays for itself and then some?
That's the justification. It demonstrates a clear, measurable financial return, making it a financially sound decision.
That's a strong case. What about the implementation itself? It's planned as a phased approach over 18 months.
Wise to phase it.
But there are certainly risks. Potential disruptions to daily operations, data migration issues, and user adoption challenges.
Very common pitfalls in big IT projects. Complex data, processes, and crucially people can create hurdles if not managed proactively.
So how do they plan to mitigate these risks?
With a comprehensive strategy. Invest in comprehensive training programs, conduct thorough testing, and implement a robust change management strategy. This emphasizes proactive risk reduction, recognizing that success relies as much on preparing the people as the technology. Change management is key to maximizing adoption.
How will these new systems integrate with existing infrastructure, especially older systems?
Good question. The source notes the need to ensure API compatibility and may need to build custom integrations for some legacy systems. Application programming interface. It allows different software systems to talk to each other automatically. Building custom integrations for older legacy systems can be complex and costly, but often necessary to ensure seamless data flow.
Data security, particularly for financial data, must be paramount.
Absolutely non-negotiable. The plan includes implementing enterprise-grade security measures, including encryption, multi-factor authentication, and regular security audits, essential to protect against cyber threats. Plus, a significant benefit of these new systems is providing better audit trails, automated compliance checks, and more comprehensive reporting capability, boosting compliance and governance.
Crucially, who should lead this initiative? The recommendation is forming a cross-functional team led by our CTO with strong representation from finance.
Collaboration is vital. needs both IT and finance leadership to ensure technical feasibility and business objectives align.
And finally, the vendor selection process. How do they choose the right partner?
Through a thorough RFP, request for proposal process, including demos, reference checks, and potentially site visits to other users. This ensures meticulous due diligence, selecting partners with the right technology, a proven track record, and understanding of the company's needs.
Okay, let's talk global expansion. Entering new markets, especially somewhere like Asia, demands really careful financial planning.
Extremely careful.
The question that sets the tone is, what financing options should we consider? This isn't just tactical, it's strategic how best to fund growth while managing risk.
And this segment offers a practical guide to international expansion financing. It covers funding mechanisms, managing cross-border risks, and optimizing financial structures for global operations. It shows the intricate considerations involved.
The available financing options discussed are weighed carefully, using retained earnings, issuing corporate bonds, or seeking a syndicated loan from international banks.
Each has pros and cons. Retained earnings company, profits kept back are cheapest, but limit other investments. Bonds offer fixed rates, but need a strong credit rating. Syndicated loans from a group of banks offer flexibility, but might have variable rates.
So what's the recommendation?
A combination of retained earnings and a syndicated loan to balance cost and flexibility. A hybrid approach.
And the scale of investment.
About $50 million over the next 2 years. Significant capital needed.
This would inevitably increase the debt-to-equity ratio from 0.4 to approximately a 0.55.
Which, importantly, is still considered within an acceptable range. Leverage increases, but it remains manageable.
When operating internationally, managing currency risk is vital, isn't it?
Absolutely critical. Adverse exchange rate moves can wipe out profits.
The strategy outlined involves natural hedging by matching revenues and costs in local currencies and using forward contracts for remaining exposure.
Natural hedging means structuring operations to offset risks, like paying local staff with local revenue. For remaining exposure, forward contracts lock in exchange rates, a robust dual approach.
For the syndicated loan, interest rates are expected to be LIBOR plus 150 to 200 basis points.
Though LIBOR is phasing out, the concept of a base rate plus a spread based on creditworthiness remains standard.
The loan term is a 5-year term with an option to refinance after 3 years, offering flexibility, and covenants are expected.
Yes, conditions lenders place on borrowers, likely requiring them to maintain certain financial ratios such as interest coverage and leverage ratios, and possibly agree to limitations on additional borrowing. Protects the lenders.
Optimizing tax efficiency is another key consideration for global expansion.
Huge, especially in complex regions.
The discussion suggests establishing a regional holding company in a tax-friendly jurisdiction like Singapore for managing Asian subsidiaries. This highlights strategic tax planning to legally minimize liabilities.
And the repatriation of profits moving earnings back home needs exceptionally careful planning. The strategy aims to balance reinvestment needs with tax implications, possibly using intercompany loans or dividends. Different methods have vastly different tax consequences, crucial for multinationals.
Finally, the timeline for arranging this complex financing, specifically a syndicated loan, is estimated at 2 to 3 months for negotiations and documentation.
Provides a realistic lead time. Highlights the detailed planning and legal work required.
Let's pivot to cost structure improvement. This isn't just about slashing budgets, right?
No, it's about finding smarter, more efficient ways to operate, making every dollar count strategically. The key question is, where should we focus our cost reduction efforts, inviting a thoughtful approach?
This segment provides a strategic playbook for optimizing expenses, balancing cost reduction with maintaining quality and managing sensitive workforce impacts. A pragmatic, responsible approach.
The source implies 3 main areas: operational efficiency, procurement, and potentially outsourcing real estate. For operational efficiency, specific measures include implement lean management principles, automate repetitive tasks, and optimize our supply chain logistics.
Lean automation logistics.
Lean maximizes value, minimizes waste. Automation cuts labor costs, reduces errors. Supply chain optimization cuts transport, storage, inventory costs. The aim is a 10 to 15% reduction in operational costs over the next 18 months, a tangible target.
Procurement optimization is another key area. Strategies include consolidate our supplier base, negotiate volume discounts, and implement a strategic sourcing process for key materials.
Consolidating suppliers gives more buying power. Volume discounts lower prices. Strategic sourcing aims for best overall value, not just lowest price. Standard best practices driving sustainable savings.
Have we considered outsourcing non-core functions?
Yes, IT support, payroll processing, and certain administrative functions are identified as potential areas. Outsourcing can reduce costs by leveraging specialized external providers.
But that might mean workforce reduction.
It could, potentially a reduction of about 5 to 7%, but this sensitive issue is addressed thoughtfully. Plans for transparent communication, retraining opportunities, and provide outplacement services. An empathetic approach, crucial for morale and reputation.
Another significant area is real estate optimization. The plan is to consolidate office spaces and implement hot desking to reduce our real estate costs by up to 20%.
Hot desking, no fixed desks, is a powerful saver, especially with hybrid work. Reduces physical footprint and overheads.
How quickly can these diverse measures be implemented? A phased approach over 24 months, starting with quick wins in procurement and gradually implementing larger structural changes, is proposed.
Methodical. Build momentum with easier wins first.
Critically, the plan emphasizes ensuring quality and customer satisfaction throughout, establishing clear KPIs to monitor quality and satisfaction levels and adjust our strategies if we see any negative impacts.
Absolutely crucial. Balances cost-cutting with core business objectives. Efficiency gains can't hurt the brand.
And what about energy costs? Initiatives include invest in energy-efficient equipment and explore renewable energy options.
A dual benefit. Drives down costs and aligns with sustainable practices.
Finally, to embed this culture, tying a portion of their bonuses to achieving specific cost reduction goals while maintaining performance standards.
Aligns individual incentives with company goals. Makes cost reduction a shared responsibility.
Okay, let's tackle dividend policy. Always a delicate balancing act.
Rewarding shareholders versus retaining capital for growth. Exactly.
Our discussion starts by asking, what's our current payout ratio?
And this segment unpacks the nuances of dividend strategies, showing how companies make critical decisions about returning value while maintaining financial health and flexibility. It also shows how these decisions communicate with the market.
The current payout ratio is 40% of net income, consistent for 3 years. The payout ratio for listeners is the percentage of earnings paid out as dividends.
Key for income investors.
Compared to peers, it's slightly below the industry average of 45%, but with a competitive dividend yield at 3.2%, provides context.
Given strong performance, a modest increase to 45% is considered. This aligns with the industry average and signals confidence to investors.
But what's the impact? It reduces cash reserves by approximately $10 million annually, but importantly maintains sufficient liquidity for planned investments. A calculated trade-off.
Tax implications. No significant changes in dividend tax laws expected, but always wise to consult with our tax advisors. Essential to get expert advice.
Share buybacks are discussed as an alternative, seen as more tax efficient and provide more flexibility, but maybe less appealing to income investors.
Right. Buybacks repurchase shares, increasing remaining share value. Dividends are direct cash. Different appeal. A modest dividend increase shouldn't negatively impact our credit rating given our strong balance sheet. Reassures debt holders.
So, what message does an increased dividend send? It signals confidence in our future cash flows and commitment to returning value to shareholders, potentially attracting more long-term investors.
It's a strategic statement of health and positive outlook.
The policy review frequency is set at an annual review with the flexibility to make adjustments. Structured, yet adaptable.
A progressive dividend policy consistently increasing dividends is considered attractive, but requires confidence in our ability to sustain increasing payouts over time. High commitment.
Special dividends are another option, right? For returning excess cash to shareholders without committing to permanent increases, especially after exceptional performance years.
Allows rewarding shareholders during boom times without setting an unsustainable precedent.
To balance dividends with growth needs, the company aims to maintain a dividend coverage ratio of at least 2.
Meaning earnings can cover the dividend payment twice over. Ensures we retain sufficient earnings for reinvestment, striking that critical balance.
Finally, the annual audit, a crucial process ensuring integrity and accuracy.
The bedrock of financial reporting.
Our final deep dive begins with, how are we preparing? Setting a tone of meticulous planning.
And this conversation provides an inside look at the detailed preparation required, addressing key risks, internal controls, new accounting standards, complex valuations. It underscores the importance of transparency and accuracy.
Preparation starts well before auditors arrive with an internal pre-audit review focusing on key risk areas identified in previous audits. Proactive.
Key risk areas named are revenue recognition, inventory valuation, and our international transfer pricing policies. Common areas of scrutiny due to complexity and judgment involved. Revenue recognition especially can be tricky.
What about significant accounting policy changes? Implementation of the new lease accounting standard, which will significantly impact our balance sheet.
A major change, requiring most leases on the balance sheet. Despite extensive work, the prudence of having the internal audit team do a detailed review before the external auditors arrive shows an extra layer of assurance.
Good caution. What about internal control weaknesses? Addressed minor issues, but still working on improving our IT general controls.
IT general controls are fundamental for data integrity and security. They're using a comprehensive control matrix and have implemented a new governance, risk, and compliance GRC software to track changes in testing. Robust documentation and tech-enabled management.
Looking ahead, upcoming changes to financial instrument accounting require preparation, highlights the dynamic regulatory environment.
To ensure disclosure accuracy, a disclosure checklist, and are conducting a peer review process for all significant disclosures emphasizes rigor.
With expansion, they're reassessing reportable segments, possibly adding a new geographic segment, adapting reporting to business growth.
For complex valuations, like intangible assets from an acquisition, engaging a third-party valuation specialist ensures a robust and defensible valuation, highlights M&A accounting complexity.
Areas for significant judgments estimates, impairment testing of goodwill, and the valuation of our pension obligation. Complex areas.
Goodwill impairment tests if an acquired company's value diminished. Pension valuation involves actuarial assumptions. Confidence is bolstered by having assumptions reviewed by external experts. Adds independent assurance.
And for governance, scheduling a meeting with the audit committee to review progress with a pre-audit report emphasizes oversight, ensures the board is informed and confident.
Upholds the highest standards of transparency and accountability.
What a deep dive. We've truly navigated the intricate waters of financial statements, investment strategies, budgeting, risk management, acquisitions, system modernization, global expansion financing, cost reduction, dividend policies, and even audit preparations. The sheer breadth of these conversations highlights how absolutely central financial acumen, combined with precise communication, is to any business professional seeking to make an impact. It's about seeing the whole business through that financial lens.
Indeed. And beyond the numbers and strategies, this deep dive has, for you, the listener, also been about the language of finance. The precision, clarity, and structure used to convey complex ideas. We've seen how specific phrases, logical sequencing, and articulating the drivers behind figures are paramount. Mastering these patterns in terminology allows you not just to understand, but to actively shape the financial landscape and contribute meaningfully. It's about speaking like a professional.
So what does this all mean for you, our dedicated listener? It means that true financial fluency isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about confidently articulating their story, asking the right questions, and contributing to strategic decisions with clarity and impact. It's about moving beyond being an observer to becoming an active, indispensable participant.
And this raises an important question for you to mull over long after this deep dive concludes. In a world where financial data is increasingly abundant, accessible, and often overwhelming, how much more valuable does the indispensable skill of translating that complex financial information into clear, actionable, and profoundly persuasive conversations become for driving real business impact and accelerating your personal career advancement?
Something to think about. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're not just dissecting financial reports. We're taking a deep dive into the language of finance itself. How top professionals navigate those critical business conversations. Our source for this dive is a fascinating series of financial dialogues, designed not just to convey numbers, but, to teach the art of professional communication within the finance sector. Our mission today is to unpack these exchanges, revealing not just the crucial financial insights, but also the precise vocabulary, the strategic framing, and the structured dialogue that transforms complex data into actionable understanding. Think of this as your practical guide to speaking like an expert, whether you're discussing quarterly results or pioneering global expansion.
What's truly compelling about this material is its dual nature. It provides an immediate window into the essential financial metrics and strategic considerations that truly drive business decisions. And at the same time, it models the clear, concise, and highly structured communication that is, well, paramount in the financial world. We'll be looking at what the most astute professionals choose to discuss, and even more crucially, how they articulate it, offering you practical nuggets to refine your own professional interactions and perhaps even reshape the way you approach strategic financial dialogue.
All right, let's unpack our first segment, the fundamental report card of any company, the quarterly financial statements. Our source kicks off with a classic opening. Have you had a chance to review the quarterly financial statements? A perfect example of a professional yet direct way to initiate such a, well, high-stakes discussion.
It immediately sets a professional tone, doesn't it? What's fascinating here is not just that they review the statements, but how the conversation systematically moves through the three key financial statements, extracting immediate, actionable insights. This structured approach is absolutely vital for clarity and efficiency in real-world, high-pressure discussions. For you, the ability to seamlessly transition from one statement to the next, covering the most critical points without getting bogged down in minutia, that's a hallmark of a truly sharp finance professional.
So the discussion immediately pivots to the income statement. This is where we gauge performance and profitability. The source notes a 12% increase in revenue compared to the previous quarter. That's highlighted as a positive trend. For a professional, what does that level of consistent revenue growth really signal? And what are the follow-up questions you'd be asking?
Well, consistent revenue growth is, of course, the lifeblood of any business, signaling strong market acceptance and operational effectiveness. But the real insight for professionals isn't just that it's growing, but how and why. Is it sustainable organic growth driven by genuine demand? Or is it heavily reliant on aggressive, potentially costly marketing efforts or, unsustainable pricing strategies that could become a drag on future profitability? A 12% increase is significant, sure, but a professional would immediately probe into its drivers. New product launches, market share gains, or perhaps even inflationary pricing. The challenge is articulating not just the what, but the underlying why and its future implications for the company's long-term health.
Right. And on the flip side, they immediately address operating expenses, noting a 7% rise. But critically, they don't just state the number, they explain its drivers. Increased marketing efforts and new hires. That demonstrates a crucial link between financial figures and strategic business decisions. What's the strategic significance of understanding the why behind expense fluctuations for an informed professional?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Because simply seeing expenses up is only half the story, and, well, a simplistic view can lead to flawed conclusions. Understanding the why is paramount because expenses aren't just numbers on a page. They're often deliberate strategic investments. A rise in expenses isn't inherently negative if it's tied to initiatives that promise future growth or improved efficiency. In this case, increased marketing efforts aim to boost sales, while new hires expand capacity or bring in crucial expertise. As a finance professional, you're not just reporting the numbers, you're interpreting them within the context of the company's broader strategy. This allows for a far more nuanced and insightful conversation, moving beyond mere reporting to strategic analysis of capital allocation.
So even with those increased expenses, the profit margins improved slightly from 18% to 19.5%. That's a subtle but crucial nugget of insight right there. What does that slight margin improvement, even with rising costs, truly tell us about the company's operational efficiency or strategic execution?
It tells us a great deal about management's effectiveness. A slight margin improvement, despite rising costs, is often a sign of healthy management and operational leverage. It indicates that the revenue growth significantly outpaced the expense growth on a per-dollar basis, meaning the company is either becoming more efficient in its operations or its strategic investments are generating disproportionately higher returns. Perhaps they're achieving economies of scale more rapidly than anticipated, or maybe their pricing power is stronger than the market's inflationary pressures. This demonstrates that they are not just growing, but growing profitably, which is always a powerful signal of well-executed strategy and a tight grasp on unit economics.
Excellent. From the income statement, the conversation then smoothly pivots to the balance sheet, which gives us a snapshot of the company's financial health and stability. They first focus on liquidity, with the current ratio improving from 1.8 to 2.1. That improvement in the current ratio, that immediate measure of liquidity, is excellent news. How does this impact the company's operational agility and ability to seize short-term opportunities?
That improvement in the current ratio is indeed a very positive sign. It indicates a stronger short-term liquidity position, meaning the company has significantly more current assets available to cover its immediate financial obligations. For an informed professional, this signifies more than just solvency. It speaks to increased operational agility. A healthier current ratio allows a company to negotiate better terms with suppliers, maybe make opportunistic inventory purchases, or even weather unexpected short-term cash flow dips without strain. It's about empowering day-to-day operations with a stronger financial cushion and greater flexibility.
And then they moved to leverage, looking at the debt-to-equity ratio, which decreased from 0.7 to 0.6. This shows reduced reliance on debt financing. How does this particular ratio inform us about financial stability, and what message does this reduction send to the market?
The debt-to-equity ratio reveals how much of a company's assets are financed by debt versus shareholder equity. A decrease from 0.7 to 0.6 is a significant de-risking move. It signifies that the company is relying less on borrowed money and more on its own capital, which immediately translates to reduced financial risk. For the market, this communicates a more conservative and robust financial structure. It implies lower interest expenses, less vulnerability to rising interest rates or economic downturns, and greater resilience. This kind of prudent financial management can be very attractive to long-term investors and can even positively influence credit ratings, reducing the cost of future borrowing.
And directly linked to that reduced debt, they mentioned that interest expenses decreased by 8%, which contributed positively to our bottom line. This really illustrates the compounding benefits of prudent financial management, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and it's a beautiful example of how strategic financial decisions yield tangible results. When a company actively reduces its reliance on debt, the direct consequence is a decline in interest expenses. This reduction isn't a one-off gain, it's a recurring cost saving. It flows straight to the net income, enhancing profitability quarter after quarter. It's a clear illustration that beyond just improving a balance sheet ratio, effective debt management contributes real cash savings that can be reinvested in growth, returned to shareholders, or used to build up reserves. It frees up capital that was previously servicing debt.
Excellent point. Okay, let's move on to the cash flow statement, which truly shows us where the money is coming from and where it's going. They note a 15% increase in operating cash flow, driven by improved collections and inventory management. For a professional, why is strong operating cash flow so critical for business sustainability and growth? And what does this specific increase tell us?
Operating cash flow is, well, arguably the most critical metric for long-term sustainability because it represents the actual cash generated from a company's core business activities selling goods and services. A robust increase, especially driven by operational improvements like improved collections and inventory management, signifies that the company is not just generating revenue, but is efficiently converting sales into actual cash. This cash is the fuel for day-to-day operations, paying suppliers and employees and funding future growth without needing to frequently tap external capital markets. This 15% jump suggests not just sales growth, but superior working capital management, which is a real sign of operational excellence.
And they get specific about capital expenditures, mentioning investments of $2 million in new equipment and $1.5 million in software upgrades. These are concrete examples of how cash is deployed for long-term assets, showing tangible investment in the future. What can we infer about the company's strategic direction from these specific investments?
These capital expenditures are crucial. They're not just numbers. They reveal strategic intent. Investing in new equipment suggests a focus on enhancing production capacity, improving operational efficiency, or perhaps upgrading technology to maintain a competitive edge. The software upgrades, particularly at $1.5 million, point towards a commitment to digital transformation, streamlining internal processes, or enhancing data capabilities. Together, these signal a company actively investing in its core infrastructure and technological backbone to support future growth and improve long-term productivity rather than simply maintaining the status quo. It shows a forward-looking mindset using today's cash strength to build tomorrow's capabilities.
Right. Even with those significant investments, free cash flow still increased by 5%. This is often seen as a critical indicator. What exactly is free cash flow, and why is its increase, even after capital expenditures, such a vital sign of a company's financial flexibility and strategic optionality?
Free cash flow is essentially the cash a company generates after accounting for the cash outflows to support its operations and maintain its capital assets. It's the cash left over after a company pays its bills and invests in its infrastructure. An increase in free cash flow, even after significant capital expenditures, signals truly robust financial health and a powerful degree of strategic optionality. It means the company has more discretionary cash available for crucial strategic choices. Aggressive debt reduction, significant share buybacks, opportunistic acquisitions, or substantial new strategic investments. Each choice signals a vastly different strategic philosophy and risk appetite to the market, and that's the story the increase in free cash flow really tells. It's the ultimate measure of a company's financial independence.
And finally, on the cash flow statement, they highlight maintaining a quarterly dividend of 50 cents per share, which is in line with our dividend policy. What does this consistency and commitment to shareholders communicate to the investment community about management's outlook?
This communicates stability, predictability, and management's confidence in future earnings and cash flows. Maintaining a consistent dividend, especially when other financial metrics like revenue and cash flow are strong, is a powerful signal to investors, particularly those seeking income. It demonstrates management's commitment to returning value to its owners in a reliable manner, which can significantly enhance shareholder trust and attract long-term, income-focused investors. It reflects a mature capital allocation strategy, balancing reinvestment needs with shareholder rewards.
So, summarizing the financial statements, the key strengths identified are improved liquidity, increasing revenue, and strong cash flow generation. Why are these three pillars fundamental to financial health, forming a kind of virtuous cycle?
These three pillars are fundamental because they represent the core aspects of financial viability and often create a powerful virtuous cycle. Improved liquidity ensures the company can meet its immediate obligations and remain agile. Increasing revenue signifies market demand and growth potential. And strong cash flow generation is the engine that funds operations, fuels those capital investments we just discussed, and ultimately rewards shareholders. Together, they paint a picture of a company that is not only growing its top line, but is doing so sustainably, efficiently converting sales into cash, and possessing the financial resilience to navigate challenges and aggressively seize new opportunities. It's the trifecta of financial strength.
And a pragmatic approach is seen in acknowledging the need to keep an eye on our operating expenses and look for ways to improve efficiency without compromising growth. This emphasizes continuous improvement even when things are going well. It also seems to hint at a theme we'll explore later, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Even financially healthy companies must remain vigilant about cost management. This statement shows an understanding that while current expenses are tied to growth initiatives, there's always room for optimization. It's a commitment to continuous improvement, ensuring that efficiency gains are pursued without stifling the very growth that's been so positive. This proactive stance on cost control is a hallmark of strong financial leadership. Preventing complacency and laying the groundwork for more aggressive cost structure improvements we'll undoubtedly delve into later.
Lastly, they compare the results to the annual forecast, noting that the company is tracking slightly above our annual forecast with revenue 3% higher and net income 2% above projections. Why is this comparison to expectations so critical for assessing management credibility and strategic planning?
This comparison provides critical context and speaks volumes about management's credibility and the rigor of their strategic planning. Financial forecasts are internal targets, and exceeding them, even slightly, signals effective planning, strong execution, and perhaps a disciplined, conservative forecasting approach. It instills confidence in both internal stakeholders and external investors that the management team understands its business drivers, can execute its strategy, and is reliably delivering on or even surpassing its stated objectives. It's not just about the numbers themselves, but the story they tell about the leadership's ability to forecast and deliver.
Okay, moving beyond the quarterly numbers now, our next conversation takes us into strategic investment management, starting with asset allocation. This immediately tells you this is about managing assets for growth and risk within a larger portfolio.
Exactly. This discussion showcases how portfolio management isn't just about picking individual stocks, but about balancing risk, return, and achieving specific strategic objectives. The detailed allocation and performance metrics offer clear insights into sophisticated tactical financial decision-making. For a finance professional, being able to articulate your portfolio structure, its rationale, and its performance relative to specific benchmarks is absolutely crucial in any strategic dialogue.
So they dive straight into the portfolio breakdown: 60% stocks, 30% bonds, and 10% cash equivalents. This highlights diversification across asset classes. For a professional audience, what are the implicit assumptions about risk tolerance and investment objectives behind this kind of allocation? And what are the less obvious benefits beyond simply spreading risk?
Well, this 60% stocks, 30% bonds, 10% cash allocation immediately suggests a growth-oriented but still balanced approach. It's typical for an entity with a moderate to high risk tolerance and a medium to long-term investment horizon. Beyond simply spreading risk, the less obvious benefits lie in asset correlation and portfolio stability. Stocks offer long-term capital appreciation, while bonds traditionally provide income and act as a ballast, often inversely correlated to stocks during downturns. cash offers liquidity and preserves capital, dampening volatility. The true benefit is not just diversification of assets, but diversification by their behavior under different market conditions, aiming to smooth out returns and reduce overall portfolio volatility while still capturing market upside.
And the performance metrics reveal a 7.5% return over the past year, which is slightly above our benchmark of 7%. A 7.5% return, outperforming the benchmark by 0.5%. That sounds good on the surface, but how significant is that outperformance really? And what are the hidden risks of chasing that benchmark too aggressively?
Benchmarks are absolutely critical because they provide the standard against which to measure investment success. Without one, a 7.5% return is just a number. Outperforming the benchmark, even by 0.5%, signifies that the portfolio manager's active decisions, whether in asset allocation, sector overweighting, or security selection, have added value beyond what a passive investment would have achieved. However, the hidden risk of aggressively chasing a benchmark is often taking on undue, uncompensated risk, or deviating from the portfolio's stated risk profile. It's a fine line between active management adding alpha and taking speculative bets. The real question is, was this outperformance achieved through smart, disciplined risk-taking, or did it involve a less sustainable strategy?
They also note being overweight in technology and healthcare, which have been driving our outperformance. This really shows strategic sector bets based on market trends. For a professional, what's the conviction behind being overweight in certain sectors, and what kind of market analysis typically informs such a decision?
Being overweight in a sector means allocating a larger percentage of your portfolio to it than its representation in your benchmark index. This is a high-conviction strategic bet, informed by deep market analysis. It suggests a belief that these sectors are poised for outperformance due to secular growth trends, disruptive innovation, favorable regulatory environments, or, demographic shifts. For technology, it might be AI or cloud computing. For healthcare, it could be biotechnology or an aging population. The key is that these are not arbitrary choices, but rather the result of thorough fundamental and quantitative research, identifying areas where the risk-reward profile is particularly compelling. Their outperformance validates the analytical rigor that went into those decisions.
Moving into global markets, they discuss a 15% allocation to emerging markets, which has yielded mixed results due to recent volatility. This acknowledges the higher risk-reward profile of these markets, doesn't it? What are the specific challenges and opportunities that typically characterize emerging market investments that a professional would be acutely aware of?
Indeed, it highlights the inherent volatility. Emerging markets, by their nature, often offer higher growth potential due to rapidly developing economies, young populations, and expanding consumer bases. The opportunity lies in tapping into that faster growth trajectory. However, the specific challenges a professional would be acutely aware of include elevated political and regulatory risks, greater currency fluctuations, less mature legal and financial infrastructures, and lower liquidity in equity markets. These factors can lead to the mixed results observed, making emerging markets a calculated risk-reward play where deep regional expertise becomes even more critical.
Right. Given the current economic climate, the suggestion is to increase our allocation to defensive sectors and reducing exposure to cyclical industries. For a professional, what market signals would typically trigger such a strategic adjustment? And what are the potential trade-offs of this move?
This signals a clear shift towards risk aversion in the portfolio, anticipating a potential economic slowdown or increased market uncertainty. For a professional, such a strategic adjustment would typically be triggered by a confluence of macroeconomic signals: rising inflation, central bank hawkishness, declining consumer confidence, or slowing corporate earnings growth. Defensive sectors like utilities, consumer staples, and healthcare tend to perform consistently regardless of the economic cycle, offering stability. Cyclical industries, such as automotive or luxury goods, are highly sensitive to economic ups and downs. The trade-off, of course, is sacrificing potential upside in a strong recovery for stability during a downturn. It's a defensive posture, prioritizing capital preservation over aggressive growth.
They also prioritize short to medium-term corporate bonds to balance yield and interest rate risk in their fixed income focus. What's the strategic nuance here in managing bond portfolios, especially in today's environment?
This indicates a highly sophisticated approach to fixed income management, especially relevant in volatile interest rate environments. Short to medium-term bonds are inherently less sensitive to interest rate changes than long-term bonds, which helps manage interest rate risk, the risk that rising rates will erode the value of your bond holdings. Corporate bonds, while carrying more credit risk than government bonds, generally offer higher yields. By focusing on this specific maturity range within corporate bonds, they are seeking a delicate balance. capturing decent yield to enhance overall portfolio returns without taking on excessive interest rate exposure. It's about optimizing for income while prudently managing one of the most significant risks in fixed income.
And for international investments, they're using currency hedging and diversification across different regions to mitigate risk. How do these techniques work to protect a portfolio, and what are the practical implications for managing global exposure?
Currency hedging involves using financial instruments, like forward contracts or options, to lock in an exchange rate for a future transaction, thereby minimizing the risk of adverse currency movements, eroding the value of international investments. Diversification across different regions means spreading investments across various countries and economies. The practical implication is reducing the impact of a downturn or political instability in any single country on the overall portfolio. Both are crucial for managing the unique, non-market-specific risks inherent in global investing, protecting the portfolio's value from factors like geopolitical events or sovereign debt crises that are outside of traditional market performance.
They also maintain a small 5% allocation to alternatives, including REITs and commodities for diversification. For an informed investor, what's the strategic role of these alternative investments in a portfolio, and what's the thinking behind such a limited allocation?
Alternative investments are asset classes that fall outside traditional categories like stocks, bonds, and cash. REITs, or real estate investment trusts, allow investors to own income-producing real estate without direct property management. Commodities like gold or oil are raw materials. Their strategic role in a diversified portfolio is typically to provide non-correlated returns, meaning they don't necessarily move in the same direction as stocks or bonds, and to offer a hedge against inflation or market volatility. A 5% allocation suggests a strategic but limited use for further diversification and potential enhanced returns, recognizing their typically lower liquidity and higher complexity compared to traditional assets. It's about optimizing the risk-return frontier.
Interesting. Now, ESG investments are gaining traction with a suggestion to explore increasing our exposure to sustainable and socially responsible companies. This highlights a growing trend in responsible investing. The idea is that ESG-focused companies tend to have better long-term sustainability, potentially lowering risk. From a financial perspective, how does this link between ESG and lower risk actually materialize?
Well, this is a profound shift in investment philosophy. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. The link between strong ESG practices and lower financial risk materializes in several ways. Companies with robust environmental policies may face fewer regulatory fines or climate-related operational disruptions. Strong social practices can lead to better employee retention, higher productivity, and stronger brand loyalty, reducing reputational risk. Good governance structures often translate to more transparent operations, less fraud, and better long-term strategic decisions, reducing legal and compliance risks. So financially, ESG integration is seen as a proxy for better management, resilience, and adaptability to future challenges, contributing to more stable and sustainable returns over the long term. It's about looking beyond the quarterly numbers to the foundational elements of corporate health.
What about liquidity? They maintain sufficient cash to cover about 6 months of operating expenses, which is in line with our policy. This emphasizes the importance of liquidity for operational stability. For a professional, what does that specific cash buffer signal about the company's financial discipline and risk appetite?
Maintaining a healthy cash position, particularly one that covers 6 months of operating expenses, provides a robust liquidity buffer. For a professional, this signals strong financial discipline and a prudent rather than aggressive risk appetite. It ensures the company can meet its short-term financial obligations, absorb unexpected shocks, and even seize opportunistic investments without immediately resorting to external financing or selling assets under duress. This adherence to a clear policy suggests a mature financial operation that prioritizes stability and operational continuity, reassuring stakeholders about its resilience.
And looking forward, they identify inflation, interest rate changes, and geopolitical tensions as factors to monitor closely. These are truly universal concerns for financial strategists right now, aren't they? What's the direct impact these can have on an investment portfolio?
They are indeed the trifecta of modern financial uncertainty. Inflation erodes purchasing power and can squeeze corporate profit margins, potentially impacting equity valuations and bond yields. Interest rate changes directly affect borrowing costs for companies, the attractiveness of different asset classes, and bond valuations. Geopolitical tensions can disrupt global supply chains, trigger commodity price volatility, and introduce market instability through sanctions or trade wars. For an investment portfolio, these factors can directly impact asset correlations, necessitate rebalancing, and require constant revaluation of sector exposures and currency risks. Monitoring them isn't just about awareness, it's about anticipating shifts and proactively adjusting portfolio strategy to mitigate downside and capture emerging opportunities.
Finally, they recommend quarterly reviews with rebalancing as needed, or if any asset class deviates more than 5% from our target allocation. This underlines the dynamic nature of portfolio management. For an experienced professional, how is that 5% deviation threshold typically determined, and what are the often overlooked implications of failing to rebalance?
This recommendation highlights that portfolio management is decidedly not a set-it-and-forget-it exercise. Markets are constantly in flux, and asset classes perform differently over time. The 5% deviation threshold is a common, practical rule of thumb. It's typically determined based on the portfolio's overall volatility tolerance, the cost of rebalancing, transaction fees, tax implications, and the manager's conviction in their strategic asset allocation. An overlooked implication of failing to rebalance is risk drift. Your portfolio gradually becomes riskier than intended as outperforming assets, often stocks, grow to be a disproportionately larger percentage. This means your exposure to market downturns could be much higher than your initial risk profile intended, potentially leading to larger losses than anticipated. It's about maintaining disciplined alignment with the target risk-return profile.
Okay, let's shift gears to budget planning. This is where financial strategy truly meets operational reality. Our source frames this perfectly with the direct professional query: where should we begin? Setting the stage for a collaborative yet disciplined financial discussion.
Exactly. This section truly is a masterclass in how to approach budget planning systematically, from reviewing past performance to projecting future needs and mitigating uncertainties. It's about building a robust financial framework, and that initial step, reviewing past performance, is absolutely crucial for continuous organizational learning and adaptation. It demonstrates a commitment to evidence-based planning rather than just guesswork.
So they start by reviewing last year's budget versus actual performance to identify any significant variances. This highlights the crucial feedback loop in financial planning. For a seasoned professional, what are the deeper strategic insights gained from this initial step beyond simply noting numerical differences?
This initial step is profoundly strategic. It allows a company to assess not just the accuracy of its previous forecasts, but the effectiveness of its underlying assumptions about market conditions, operational efficiency, and competitive dynamics. By pinpointing significant variances like the overspending on marketing or underspending on R&D mentioned later, the organization can understand the true underlying causes. Was it a planning error, an unforeseen market shift, or an execution issue? This feedback loop is essential for continuous improvement in forecasting methodology, strategic resource allocation, and fostering greater accountability across departments. It's how financial planning evolves, becoming smarter and more precise year after year.
And they provide specific examples of those discrepancies. Overspending on marketing by 15% and underspending on R&D by 10%. But crucially, they also immediately explain the factors contributing to these variances: an unexpected opportunity for a high-profile campaign for marketing and project delays for R&D. This illustrates the real-world complexities that impact budget adherence, doesn't it? It shows how a budget is a living document.
It truly does, and this level of detail elevates the conversation beyond simply reporting numbers to understanding the narrative behind them. It acknowledges that budgets are living documents, impacted by dynamic real-world events and strategic pivots. The marketing overspend in this context wasn't a failure of control. It was a response to an opportunistic market window. The R&D underspend wasn't necessarily a lack of commitment, but a reflection of project realities and perhaps unforeseen technical hurdles. Understanding these nuanced factors is key not just to explaining past performance, but to informing future budgeting to be both more flexible and more realistic. It showcases a mature, adaptive understanding of financial operations, embracing agility over rigid adherence.
So understanding those factors, they suggest building more flexibility into the marketing budget for the coming year and setting clearer milestones for R&D projects to prevent future underspending. These are concrete, actionable adjustments. How do these tactical changes reflect a deeper strategic lesson learned about resource allocation?
These are indeed excellent direct responses to the identified variances, reflecting a deeper strategic lesson. Building flexibility into the marketing budget recognizes that the market doesn't stand still. Opportunities can arise unexpectedly, and a rigid budget might hinder strategic agility and competitive response. For R&D, setting clearer milestones directly addresses the project delays by providing better tracking and accountability. ensuring that critical funds allocated are indeed utilized as planned and progress is measurable. These adjustments demonstrate a proactive, adaptive approach to financial planning, learning from past experiences to optimize future resource allocation and ensure capital is deployed effectively.
And for revenue projections, they recommend a bottom-up approach, starting with sales forecasts from each division and then aggregating them. For a professional, why is this granular, realistic forecasting so emphasized in professional finance, and what are the potential pitfalls of not doing it this way?
The bottom-up approach is highly valued because it leverages the closest to the ground knowledge. Sales teams and division heads have the most direct insights into local market demand, customer pipelines, and operational capacities. Aggregating these detailed forecasts from individual units results in a more granular and realistically achievable overall revenue projection than a top-down, broad-stroke estimate imposed from above. The major pitfall of a purely top-down approach is a lack of operational buy-in and ownership. Targets can feel arbitrary, leading to lower morale and a reduced likelihood of hitting those numbers. It grounds the budget in operational realities, making it more credible and, crucially, more likely to be achieved because the teams responsible for hitting targets were involved in setting them.
How do they account for potential economic uncertainties? The strategic move to create multiple scenarios, base case, optimistic, and pessimistic, to prepare for different outcomes. What's the value of this kind of scenario planning for driving resilient strategic decisions in an uncertain financial landscape?
Scenario planning is invaluable, especially in today's volatile economic environment. It moves beyond a single-point estimate and explicitly acknowledges that the future is uncertain. By developing base, optimistic, and pessimistic scenarios, the company can stress test its budget and strategic plans under a range of plausible conditions. This allows management to proactively identify potential challenges and opportunities, develop contingency plans for adverse outcomes, and strategically position themselves to capitalize on more favorable ones. It prepares the organization for various futures, reducing reactive panic and enabling more robust, premeditated responses when events unfold differently than expected. It's a powerful tool for robust financial foresight and building strategic resilience.
For cost-saving initiatives, they mention exploring optimizing our supply chain and potentially renegotiating some of our long-term contracts. These are concrete, tactical measures. From a strategic perspective, what deeper efficiencies or long-term advantages can these kinds of initiatives unlock beyond immediate cost reductions?
These are indeed typical targets because they often represent significant recurring expenditures for many businesses. But beyond immediate cost reduction, these initiatives unlock deeper strategic advantages. Supply chain optimization, for instance, can lead to improved inventory management, reduced waste, faster time to market, and enhanced resilience against disruptions, all of which contribute to long-term profitability and competitive advantage. Renegotiating long-term contracts isn't just about price. It's about establishing stronger, more collaborative supplier relationships that can yield innovations or more favorable terms in the future. These aren't just one-off savings. They can generate sustained operational efficiencies that positively impact the company's cost structure and agility over time.
And when handling budget requests, they recommend requiring detailed justifications and tie them to specific KPIs or strategic objectives. This promotes accountability and strategic alignment. What does this process communicate about the company's culture around spending? This approach transforms budget requests from mere asks into strategic proposals, and it communicates a culture of disciplined, performance-driven spending. By demanding detailed justifications and explicitly linking requests to key performance indicators, KPIs, or overarching strategic objectives, it ensures that every dollar requested is aligned with the company's broader goals and can be measured for its impact. This promotes a pervasive culture of accountability, discourages wasteful or nice-to-have spending, and ensures that precious financial resources are directed towards initiatives that truly contribute to the company's strategic success. It's about making every investment intentional, justifiable, and measurable.
They also propose a 2-month process for budget approval, showing a realistic operational timeframe and monthly reviews for agility and necessary adjustments. Why is this blend of upfront, thorough planning and ongoing agile monitoring so essential in modern financial management?
This blend is absolutely essential because it expertly balances thoroughness with responsiveness. A 2-month approval process allows for comprehensive planning, detailed analysis, cross-functional input, and necessary iterations, preventing rushed, ill-considered decisions. Monthly reviews, on the other hand, provide critical agility. The business environment is inherently dynamic, and circumstances can change rapidly. Monthly reviews allow management to track performance against the budget in near real time, identify deviations early, and make necessary course corrections to ensure the company stays on track with its financial goals without waiting for the full annual cycle. It's a continuous improvement loop that combines meticulous planning with dynamic execution.
For tools and buy-in, they suggest upgrading to cloud-based budgeting software for integration and ensuring buy-in from all department heads by involving them early and communicating alignment with overall company goals. This underscores the collaborative nature of successful budgeting. For an experienced professional, what's the synergy between technology and human engagement here?
This point perfectly encapsulates the crucial synergy between technology and human factors in effective financial management. Cloud-based software offers immense benefits in terms of efficiency, real-time data accessibility, and seamless integration, streamlining the technical process of budgeting. However, even the most sophisticated software won't deliver its full potential without genuine human engagement. Ensuring buy-in from department heads is critical because they are the ultimate owners and executors of their respective budgets. Involving them early makes them active participants, not just passive recipients. Communicating how their specific budgets align with overarching company goals fosters a sense of shared purpose and makes them far more likely to adhere to and champion the financial plan. It's a strategic approach to change management within finance, recognizing that people drive the numbers.
All right, our journey continues into risk management. The opening here is direct and impactful. What are our current top risks? This immediately sets a tone of proactive identification and mitigation, which is becoming increasingly critical for enterprise resilience.
Exactly. This conversation demonstrates a holistic and forward-looking view of risk management, moving beyond just identifying immediate threats to considering emerging challenges and implementing sophisticated mitigation techniques. It highlights the dynamic nature of safeguarding a company's future value. The initial question immediately sets a strategic tone, signaling that risk isn't an afterthought, but a central, ongoing consideration for the entire enterprise, integral to strategy formulation.
So they explicitly name the current top risks: cybersecurity threats, supply chain disruptions, and regulatory compliance issues. These are not just common, but truly critical, interconnected risks in today's business environment, aren't they?
They absolutely are, and their interconnectedness is key. These three risks are ubiquitous and top of mind for virtually all businesses today because their impact can be systemic. Cybersecurity threats, for instance, aren't just IT issues. They can lead to massive data breaches, reputational damage, and significant financial losses, potentially crippling operations or disrupting supply chains. Supply chain disruptions, as we've witnessed globally in recent years, can halt production, impact revenue, and inflate costs. Regulatory compliance issues carry severe fines, legal repercussions, and can damage market trust. Identifying these as top risks indicates a realistic, current, and integrated understanding of the operational landscape and where an organization's most significant vulnerabilities truly lie.
And they provide specific existing mitigation measures, implemented advanced cybersecurity measures, diversified our supplier base, and established a dedicated compliance team. This provides concrete examples of risk responses, showing action, not just identification. For a professional, what does this proactive approach signal about the company's governance and resilience?
These are excellent examples of proactive risk mitigation that signal robust governance and a strong commitment to enterprise resilience. Implementing advanced cybersecurity measures goes beyond basic protection to more sophisticated, layered defenses, recognizing the evolving threat landscape. Diversifying the supplier base reduces dependence on any single source, building redundancy and minimizing the impact of any one disruption. And establishing a dedicated compliance team ensures that regulatory requirements are systematically met, proactively reducing legal and financial exposure. This shows a mature approach where identified risks lead directly to actionable, concrete strategies, demonstrating not just responsibility, but a deep commitment to safeguarding long-term value.
Beyond current risks, they acknowledge that climate-related risks are becoming more prominent. This shows forward-thinking risk assessment. And the proposed approach is to conduct a climate risk assessment and develop specific mitigation strategies for identified vulnerabilities. For a professional in finance, why is the growing importance of ESG factors like climate so crucial in modern risk management frameworks, and how is it impacting capital allocation?
The integration of climate-related risks into financial discussions highlights a significant and irreversible shift in corporate risk management. Historically, these might have been seen as purely environmental issues, but now they are clearly recognized as material financial risks, impacting supply chains, physical assets, regulatory landscapes, insurance costs, and even access to capital. Conducting a climate risk assessment allows for the systematic identification of vulnerabilities, such as disruptions from extreme weather or the financial impact of carbon pricing and the development of specific mitigation plans. This growing importance of ESG factors reflects a broader understanding that environmental and social responsibilities are intrinsically linked to long-term financial stability and sustainability, making a company more resilient and, crucially, more attractive to investors who are increasingly factoring ESG into their capital allocation decisions. It's moving from nice to have to must have.
They also review and potentially increase cyber insurance coverage given the rising threats. This shows adapting to evolving risk landscapes. What are the key considerations when assessing appropriate cyber insurance coverage in today's environment?
It's a pragmatic and increasingly essential step. As cybersecurity threats become more sophisticated, frequent, and costly, the potential financial impact of a breach increases significantly. Key considerations for assessing appropriate cyber insurance coverage include not just the potential direct financial losses from a breach, but also business interruption costs, legal fees, regulatory fines, reputational damage, and recovery expenses like forensic investigations and customer notification. The challenge is ensuring the policy comprehensively covers both the first-party costs the company incurs and third-party liabilities. It demonstrates a proactive approach to protecting the company's financial health in the face of dynamic digital risks that can materialize rapidly.
Regarding monitoring, they conduct annual comprehensive assessments with quarterly reviews of our top risks. But they also consider implementing a continuous risk monitoring system to stay more agile. This moves beyond periodic checks to real-time vigilance, doesn't it? What are the advantages of continuous monitoring in a rapidly changing risk environment?
It absolutely does, and it represents a significant leap forward in agility and responsiveness. While annual and quarterly reviews provide important periodic checkpoints, a continuous risk monitoring system allows for real-time tracking of key risk indicators across the enterprise. In today's fast-paced business environment, risks can emerge, escalate, and converge quickly. Continuous monitoring enables immediate alerts and faster responses to emerging threats, moving beyond reactive to truly proactive risk management. It embeds vigilance into daily operations, allowing for more dynamic adjustments to strategy and resource allocation, helping to identify nascent issues before they become full-blown crises.
And to ensure risk awareness, they're working to enhance our risk training programs and integrate risk considerations into decision-making processes at all levels. This really emphasizes building a culture of risk awareness throughout the organization. How challenging is it to truly embed a risk culture beyond a compliance checklist?
This is critical and often the most challenging aspect. Risk management isn't just the responsibility of a dedicated team or a compliance checklist. It needs to be deeply ingrained in the organizational culture. By enhancing training programs, they're equipping all employees with the knowledge and tools to identify and respond to risks within their spheres of influence. Integrating risk considerations into decision-making at all levels means that strategic choices, operational processes, and even daily tasks are evaluated not just for their efficiency or profitability, but also for their potential risk implications. The challenge lies in shifting mindsets from seeing risk as purely negative or a barrier to understanding it as an integral part of value creation and decision-making, where calculated risk can also lead to opportunity. It's a continuous top-down and bottom-up effort.
Now, onto financial hedging instruments. They use forward contracts and options to hedge against currency and commodity price fluctuations. For an informed professional, what's the strategic objective behind using these complex instruments, and what are the trade-offs to consider?
The strategic objective behind using forward contracts and options is primarily risk mitigation and greater certainty in financial planning. Forward contracts are customized agreements to buy or sell an asset at a specified price on a future date, essentially locking in an exchange rate or commodity price to reduce exposure to market volatility. Options give the holder the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell. The trade-offs include the cost of these instruments. Hedging isn't free. There's also the opportunity cost if the market moves favorably in the unhedged direction. You've foregone potential gains. However, for a company with predictable future foreign currency obligations or commodity input costs, hedging provides critical predictability, allowing them to focus on core operations rather than speculating on market movements. It transforms variable costs into fixed, predictable ones.
And these hedging strategies have been quite effective, reducing our exposure by approximately 60%. That provides a tangible measure of success, doesn't it? What does this level of effectiveness imply about the sophistication of their treasury operations?
It does, and a 60% reduction in exposure is a very impressive and tangible result. This quantifiable effectiveness underscores that hedging isn't just theoretical. It delivers measurable benefits by significantly reducing the financial impact of unfavorable price movements. For a professional, this implies a highly sophisticated treasury operation with robust risk analytics, a clear hedging policy, and the expertise to execute these complex financial instruments effectively. It allows the company to focus more on its core business with greater certainty about its input costs or revenue streams, contributing directly to financial stability and predictability. It speaks to a high level of financial control and foresight.
They also acknowledge accepting some market competition risks as the cost of mitigation would outweigh the potential benefits. This highlights a very strategic approach to risk acceptance. How does a company decide when to accept a risk, and what are the common pitfalls of this decision?
This is a crucial distinction in sophisticated risk management, the art of strategic risk acceptance. Not all risks can or should be fully mitigated. A company decides when to accept a risk through a careful cost-benefit analysis. Sometimes, the cost of eliminating or significantly reducing a specific risk, especially market competition, is higher than the potential loss from that risk. Aggressively trying to eliminate all competitive risk might involve excessive spending on marketing or unsustainable price cutting that erodes profitability. The common pitfall is misjudging the potential impact or likelihood of the accepted risk, or failing to continually monitor it. Accepting a calculated level of risk, especially when mitigation costs are prohibitive, reflects a pragmatic and strategic understanding of the risk-return trade-off. It's about optimizing, not eliminating, risk and freeing up capital for more productive uses.
And to quantify these accepted risks, they utilize scenario analysis and Monte Carlo simulations to estimate potential financial impacts. These sound like advanced analytical tools. For our listener, what critical insights do these tools truly provide beyond a simple forecast, and how do they inform strategic decision-making?
These are indeed advanced quantitative tools critical for robust risk assessment. Scenario analysis involves creating several distinct hypothetical future situations or scenarios, such as a severe recession, a sudden commodity price surge, or a new competitor entry, and then estimating the financial impact on the company under each of these. This helps in understanding the range of possible outcomes. Monte Carlo simulations are even more powerful. They use computer modeling to run thousands or millions of simulations, randomly drawing from probability distributions for various uncertain variables to generate a comprehensive range of possible outcomes and their probabilities. This provides a probabilistic view of risk, helping decision-makers understand not just what could happen, but how likely it is, and the distribution of potential financial impacts. It moves beyond deterministic forecasts to a more complete, data-driven understanding of uncertainty, providing a more robust quantitative basis for strategic choices. It helps put a number on the what-if with greater precision.
Let's talk acquisitions. A potential acquisition is one of the most transformative financial moves a company can make. Our source delves right into it, starting with, what's your initial assessment? Signaling a high-stakes strategic discussion that goes far beyond just balance sheets.
Right. This conversation truly reveals the multifaceted nature of mergers and acquisitions, M&A, covering financial health, strategic fit, potential pitfalls, and the meticulous planning required for successful integration. It's a deep dive into complex corporate finance, where initial assessment questions are key to setting the strategic direction of what can be a company-defining event. It requires a holistic view, not just of the numbers, but of the culture, operations, and market dynamics.
The initial assessment of the target company is positive, strong growth potential, and could provide significant synergies with our existing operations. This immediately highlights the strategic rationale. The target company's financial health is robust. Solid balance sheet with low debt, steady revenue growth of 15% year over year, and EBITDA margins around 22%. These are strong financial indicators, but it's valued at 12 times EBITDA, which is slightly above the industry average of 10. For a professional, what does paying a premium above the industry average for EBITDA really signal, and what justifies it?
Well, these financial indicators, a solid balance sheet, strong revenue growth, and healthy EBITDA margins, do indeed paint a picture of a financially sound and efficiently run company, making it an attractive target. Regarding valuation, the EBITDA multiple, enterprise value EBITDA, is a common metric. Paying 12 times EBITDA, which is slightly above the industry average of 10, signals that the acquiring company sees significant, compelling value beyond just the historical financials. This premium is typically justified by strong growth potential, unique intellectual property, a dominant market position, or, crucially, the anticipated synergies that can only be unlocked by combining the two entities. It's a bet on future value creation that the market, or the acquirer, believes isn't fully captured in the current average.
So on those synergies, they foresee cost synergies in operations and supply chain and revenue synergies through cross-selling opportunities. For a professional, what are the inherent challenges in realizing these synergies, and how often do they truly materialize as projected?
Cost synergies are efficiencies gained from combining two companies, leading to lower overall operating costs, eliminating redundant departments, consolidating IT systems, or achieving volume discounts. Revenue synergies, on the other hand, focus on increasing combined sales, for example, through cross-selling opportunities, where each company can sell its products to the other's customer base. The inherent challenge in realizing these is immense. Often, projections are overly optimistic. Cost synergies can be difficult due to integration complexities, unexpected severance costs, or resistance to change. Revenue synergies are even harder to capture as they rely on successful market integration, sales force alignment, and customer acceptance. Industry studies often show that a significant percentage of projected synergies never fully materialize, underscoring the importance of meticulous integration planning and realistic forecasting.
But they also identify potential risks and challenges. Integration challenges, potential culture clash, and the need for significant IT system upgrades. These are critical non-financial considerations that truly impact the success of an acquisition. Which of these typically poses the biggest hurdle, and what are the first steps to mitigate them?
These non-financial risks are often the most difficult to quantify, but can absolutely derail an otherwise financially sound acquisition. While IT system upgrades are expensive and complex, I would argue that culture clash often poses the biggest, most insidious hurdle. It's intangible, yet it impacts everything: employee morale, retention of key talent, productivity, and the very ability to realize those projected synergies. The first steps to mitigate these include early and transparent communication with employees from both companies, clearly articulating the rationale and vision for the combined entity. For culture, conducting a cultural assessment before the deal closes is crucial. For IT, a detailed integration plan and budget for upgrades needs to be established pre-acquisition. Proactive engagement with these soft issues can make or break the deal's long-term success.
The acquisition would increase their leverage ratio from 1.3 to 0.5, but it's still within a comfortable range. For a professional, what does that comfortable range signify about the company's financial resilience, and how might it be defined for different industries?
The leverage ratio typically measures the extent to which a company's assets are financed by debt. An increase from 0.3 to 0.5 means the company will be taking on more debt to finance the acquisition. While more debt always introduces more risk, the crucial qualifier, still within a comfortable range, is key. This comfortable range is highly industry-specific and defined by the company's internal risk policies, its existing credit rating targets, and its capacity to service that debt based on its stable cash flow generation. For utility, a higher leverage might be comfortable due to predictable cash flows, while for a tech startup, even modest leverage could be risky. It indicates that even with the additional debt for the acquisition, the company's financial structure remains robust and sustainable without unduly jeopardizing its solvency or future borrowing capacity and signaling confidence to creditors.
For financing, they're considering a combination of cash on hand, new debt issuance, and potentially a small equity offering. This really shows diversified funding strategies for a major move like an acquisition. From a professional's perspective, what are the strategic benefits of this hybrid approach versus relying on a single funding source?
A diversified funding strategy for an acquisition of this magnitude is very prudent, offering significant strategic benefits over relying on a single source. Using cash on hand is often the cheapest form of capital, as it avoids interest payments or dilution, but it depletes liquidity. New debt issuance offers leverage and can enhance returns on equity, but increases financial risk. A small equity offering, while diluting existing shareholders, strengthens the balance sheet and signals market confidence. This mixed approach allows the company to tap into different capital markets, optimize its overall cost of capital, and avoid over-reliance on any single method. It aims to strike an optimal balance, ensuring the company can finance the deal without severely impacting its financial flexibility or increasing undue risk in any one area.
They estimate 12 to 18 months for full integration, based on similar acquisitions. That provides a realistic time frame. And for regulatory approvals, they don't foresee major hurdles but emphasize a thorough antitrust analysis. For a deal professional, what specific red flags would trigger a deeper antitrust concern?
The 12 to 18-month integration timeline is certainly realistic, acknowledging that successful integration is a complex, multifaceted process. On the regulatory side, a thorough antitrust analysis is absolutely essential, particularly for larger acquisitions that might raise concerns about market concentration. Specific red flags that would trigger a deeper antitrust concern include high combined market share in a particular product or service, the acquisition of a direct competitor, a history of anti-competitive behavior by either party, or a highly concentrated industry where the merger would significantly reduce the number of major players. Proactively identifying and addressing these concerns prevents potential legal challenges, costly delays, or even deal termination, making it a critical legal due diligence step.
This acquisition aligns well with our goal of expanding market share and diversifying our product offerings. This validates the acquisition's strategic fit, tying it directly to long-term company objectives. For a professional, how crucial is this explicit strategic alignment to justifying a potentially high-cost acquisition to shareholders and the board?
Strategic alignment is the ultimate justification for any acquisition, especially a high-cost one. It confirms that the deal isn't just about financial metrics, but about advancing the company's core, long-term strategic objectives. Expanding market share contributes to growth and competitive positioning, while diversifying product offerings reduces reliance on a single product line and opens up new revenue streams, building resilience. To shareholders and the board, this clear alignment provides a compelling narrative, demonstrating that the acquisition is a calculated, value-enhancing move to bolster the company's competitive advantage and long-term resilience, rather than a speculative gamble. It provides the why that makes the what of the transaction digestible and justifiable.
The proposed due diligence timeline is a 60-day due diligence period followed by 30 days for negotiations and deal structuring. This lays out a clear project schedule, and the due diligence team will include representatives from finance, legal, operations, and IT, as well as external advisors. This highlights the essential interdisciplinary nature of due diligence. What are the common blind spots if one of these critical functions is underrepresented in the due diligence process?
This clear timeline provides a disciplined framework for a highly complex process. 60 days for due diligence is a focused period to scrutinize all aspects of the target company. The composition of the due diligence team, finance, legal, operations, IT, plus external advisors, is absolutely critical because acquisitions require an interdisciplinary approach. Common blind spots if a function is underrepresented include: without strong IT, you miss integration complexities and cybersecurity risks. Without operations, you fail to identify efficiency gaps or supply chain vulnerabilities. Without legal, you overlook regulatory hurdles or contingent liabilities. Each function brings a unique lens, and underrepresentation in any area can lead to significant post-acquisition surprises, eroding anticipated value and highlighting the importance of a truly holistic, collaborative approach.
Okay, let's talk about modernizing financial systems. In today's rapidly evolving business world, upgrading financial systems isn't just an IT project, it's a strategic imperative. The dialogue kicks off with a clear statement. We need to modernize our financial systems. For a professional, what does that statement immediately signal about the company's current state and its aspirations?
This conversation provides a compelling case for digital transformation in finance, outlining the benefits, costs, risks, and strategic considerations. That opening statement immediately signals that the current systems are no longer fit for purpose. They're likely hindering efficiency, limiting real-time insights, or creating compliance risks. It's an admission that technology is now a critical bottleneck and a commitment to leveraging it for competitive advantage. It implies a strategic vision to move from reactive reporting to proactive, data-driven decision-making, acknowledging that outdated systems can be a major drag on the entire enterprise.
So the top priorities for modernization are upgrading our ERP system, implementing a new treasury management system, and enhancing our data analytics capabilities. For our listener, what is the core strategic importance of each of these areas in a modern financial operation?
These three priorities represent a comprehensive leap towards modern financial operations. Upgrading the ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning System, is foundational. It's the central nervous system that integrates core business processes from finance to supply chain. A modern ERP ensures data consistency, automates workflows, and provides a single source of truth. Implementing a new treasury management system, TMS, is about optimizing cash management, liquidity, and financial risk, crucial for a global enterprise. It automates payments, forecasts cash flows, and manages hedging. And enhancing data analytics capabilities is about transforming raw financial data into actionable insights, enabling predictive modeling, better forecasting, and more agile strategic decision-making. Together, these are about moving from basic bookkeeping to strategic financial intelligence.
And the expected benefits are clear. Improved efficiency, better real-time financial visibility, enhanced cash management, and more robust financial forecasting. These are tangible gains from modernization. Beyond the obvious, how do these benefits collectively translate into a stronger competitive advantage in the market?
These aren't just incremental improvements, they translate directly into stronger competitive advantage. Improved efficiency frees up finance teams from manual tasks, allowing them to focus on strategic analysis. Better real-time financial visibility means leadership can make faster, more informed decisions, reacting to market shifts or competitive pressures with agility. Enhanced cash management optimizes working capital, which can be reinvested or used to fund growth. And more robust financial forecasting provides a clearer roadmap for strategic planning and resource allocation. Collectively, these enable the company to be more agile, more responsive, and more intelligently managed than competitors relying on outdated systems, directly impacting profitability and market position.
The estimated cost is, initial investment is estimated at $5 million with ongoing annual costs of about $1 million. And they project a 25% ROI over 5 years, primarily through cost savings and improved decision-making capabilities. This justifies the significant investment. For an astute professional, what are the often overlooked soft benefits that might not be fully captured in this ROI calculation but are still critical?
Quantifying the investment and projecting the ROI is crucial for securing approval for such a large capital expenditure. A 25% ROI over 5 years is compelling, but for an astute professional, it's vital to consider the soft benefits that might not be fully captured in the financial model. These include improved employee morale and retention in the finance department as repetitive tasks are automated, enhanced employee experience, better auditability and regulatory compliance, reducing risk of fines, increased data security, and greater agility in responding to market changes. While harder to quantify, these soft benefits contribute significantly to long-term organizational health and can indirectly drive revenue or prevent future costs, making the true ROI even higher.
The implementation timeline is a phased approach over 18 months, and they acknowledge the main risks: potential disruptions to daily operations, data migration issues, and user adoption challenges. These are indeed common, critical pitfalls in large-scale system implementations.
A phased approach over 18 months is a realistic timeline for such complex projects, designed to minimize disruption by rolling out changes systematically. The identified risks, operational disruptions, data migration, and user adoption are not just common, but the most significant challenges that can derail even the best-planned system upgrades. Operational disruptions can directly impact revenue and customer service. Data migration is technically intricate and prone to errors that compromise data integrity. And if users don't adopt the new system, its promised benefits will never be fully realized. Identifying these risks upfront is the crucial first step towards effectively mitigating them, speaking to strong project management and foresight.
So, for mitigation, they suggest investing in comprehensive training programs, conduct thorough testing, and implement a robust change management strategy. This emphasizes proactive risk reduction. From a professional perspective, what are the specific components of a truly robust change management strategy in this context?
These mitigation strategies are directly targeted at the identified risks and are best practices for successful system implementations. Comprehensive training addresses user adoption challenges head-on, empowering employees to effectively use the new systems and feel confident. Thorough testing minimizes data migration issues and ensures system functionality before going live, preventing costly operational disruptions. A truly robust change management strategy goes beyond mere communication. It involves strong executive sponsorship, clear articulation of the why behind the change, active stakeholder engagement to solicit feedback and address concerns, dedicated support teams during and after go live, and a plan to celebrate early wins. It's about proactively managing the human side of technological transformation to ensure smooth adoption and minimize resistance.
How will these new systems integrate with their existing infrastructure? They note ensuring API compatibility and may need to build custom integrations for some legacy systems. This highlights the technical complexities involved. What are the long-term implications of relying on custom integrations for legacy systems?
This point addresses a major technical hurdle in any large system upgrade. API, or Application Programming Interface, compatibility means the new systems can talk to existing ones seamlessly, exchanging data and functionalities. However, older legacy systems often lack modern APIs, requiring custom integrations. While necessary in the short term, relying on custom integrations for legacy systems has significant long-term implications. They're often expensive to build and maintain, can be fragile and prone to breaking with system updates, and create technical debt, making future upgrades even more complex. They highlight that true modernization often requires a strategy to eventually retire or replace these legacy components to achieve full seamless integration and agility.
And data security is paramount for financial systems. They'll be implementing enterprise-grade security measures, including encryption, multi-factor authentication, and regular security audits. For a professional, what is the ongoing challenge of maintaining this level of security in a dynamic cyber threat landscape?
Data security is non-negotiable in finance, especially with sensitive financial data. Enterprise-grade security measures like encryption, multi-factor authentication, and regular security audits are the gold standard. However, the ongoing challenge is that the cyber threat landscape is constantly evolving. New vulnerabilities emerge daily, and attackers become more sophisticated. So, maintaining this level of security is not a one-time project. It requires continuous vigilance, constant updating of defenses, regular employee training on phishing and social engineering, and staying ahead of emerging threats. It's a continuous, proactive battle to safeguard the integrity and confidentiality of financial data, fundamental to maintaining trust and preventing potentially catastrophic financial and reputational damage.
And how will these new systems support their regulatory compliance efforts? They'll provide better audit trails, automated compliance checks, and more comprehensive reporting capability. This clearly shows the compliance benefits of modern systems.
This is a significant, often underrated advantage of modernizing financial systems. Regulators increasingly demand transparency, accuracy, and robust internal controls. Better audit trails mean every transaction, every entry, and every change is meticulously recorded and traceable, simplifying regulatory scrutiny and forensic analysis. Automated compliance checks can flag potential issues in real time, significantly reducing the risk of non-compliance and manual errors. And more comprehensive reporting capabilities allow for quicker, more accurate, and more adaptable generation of required regulatory filings. In essence, these systems transform compliance from a manual, burdensome task into a more automated, efficient, and reliable process, fundamentally de-risking the regulatory posture of the organization.
Who should lead this digital transformation initiative? They recommend forming a cross-functional team led by our CTO with strong representation from finance. This emphasizes interdepartmental collaboration. For a professional, why is finance's strong representation so absolutely critical, even when led by IT?
This leadership structure is indeed ideal for a project of this magnitude, bridging technical expertise with core business needs. Leading it with the CTO ensures the technical success and seamless system implementation. However, finance's strong representation is absolutely critical because the systems are ultimately designed for finance and will fundamentally reshape its operations. Finance needs to ensure the new systems meet their specific reporting, analytical, and operational needs, align with financial strategy, and integrate seamlessly into financial processes. Without strong finance input, you risk building a technically sound system that fails to deliver the critical business insights or operational efficiencies the finance department truly needs. This cross-functional approach fosters shared ownership and ensures that technology directly serves strategic business objectives.
And for vendor selection, they suggest a thorough RFP process, including demos, reference checks, and potentially site visits to other users. This ensures due diligence in vendor choice. What are the key strategic questions a professional will be asking during this due diligence phase, beyond just features and pricing?
This is a highly disciplined and robust vendor selection process, crucial for such a significant investment. An RFP formally solicits bids. Demos show functionality. Reference checks provide insights from existing customers. Site visits offer real-world perspective. Beyond just features and pricing, a professional would be asking strategic questions like, what is the vendor's long-term product roadmap and commitment to innovation? How responsive is their customer support, and what's their client retention rate? What's their experience with companies of our size and industry? How flexible are they to custom needs or unforeseen integration challenges? What are the security protocols? And critically, what's the total cost of ownership beyond just the license fees, including implementation, training, and ongoing support? It's about choosing a strategic partner, not just a software provider.
Okay, next topic. Financing global expansion, specifically into the Asian market. This requires careful financial planning. The question, what financing options should we consider, immediately sets a strategic tone for this deep dive.
Right. This segment offers a practical guide to international expansion financing, covering various funding mechanisms, managing cross-border risks, and optimizing financial structures for global operations. It highlights the complexity and nuance required when a company decides to grow beyond its traditional borders, particularly into high-growth, dynamic regions like Asia, where understanding local financial customs and regulations is paramount.
So they lay out the available options, using retained earnings, issuing corporate bonds, or seeking a syndicated loan from international banks. For a professional, what is the strategic rationale behind choosing one or a combination of these for an expansion of this scale?
The strategic rationale for selecting financing options for an expansion of this scale comes down to balancing cost of capital, flexibility, and risk. Retained earnings are the cheapest form of capital, as they don't incur interest expense or dilute ownership, but their availability is limited. Issuing corporate bonds offers fixed rates and can access a broad investor base, but requires a strong credit rating and is less flexible once issued. A syndicated loan from international banks provides flexibility in terms and conditions, often allowing for larger sums than a single bank, but can have variable rates and covenants. The choice or combination depends on the company's existing capital structure, risk appetite, and the market's receptiveness to different funding instruments.
And they provide the pros and cons. Retained earnings are cheapest but limit other investments. Bonds offer fixed rates but require strong credit. Syndicated loans give flexibility but might have variable rates. Given those trade-offs, the recommendation is a combination of retained earnings and a syndicated loan to balance cost and flexibility. This suggests a hybrid approach. Why is this often a preferred strategy for significant growth initiatives?
This recommended hybrid approach is very pragmatic and often preferred for significant growth initiatives, precisely because it optimizes the capital structure by balancing cost and flexibility. Using retained earnings first leverages the cheapest form of capital, which doesn't incur interest expense or dilute ownership, minimizing the initial cash burn. Supplementing this with a syndicated loan allows the company to raise the additional substantial capital needed while maintaining flexibility in terms of repayment schedules or future refinancing options. Syndicated loans can often be tailored to the borrower's needs and provide access to a larger pool of funds than a single bank could offer. This combination intelligently balances low-cost internal funding with flexible external debt, optimizing the capital structure for the expansion without putting undue strain on liquidity or over-leveraging.
They estimate the capital needed to be about $50 million over the next 2 years. That provides a clear scale of the investment and the financial impact. An increase in their debt-to-equity ratio from 0.4 to approximately 5.55, which is still within an acceptable range.
Yeah.
How does the company typically determine what constitutes an acceptable range for its debt-to-equity ratio, and what are the implications if they were to exceed it?
That $50 million figure gives a concrete understanding of the investment scale, signaling a significant strategic commitment. The increase in the debt-to-equity ratio from 0.4 to 0.55 indicates that the company is taking on more debt relative to its equity to finance this expansion. The acceptable range is typically determined by several factors: the company's internal financial policies, its industry's typical leverage levels, its current credit rating targets, as rating agencies have thresholds, and its ability to comfortably service that debt with its projected cash flows. Exceeding this acceptable range could lead to a downgrade in credit rating, making future borrowing more expensive or difficult, increasing financial risk, and potentially signaling distress to investors. It's a key indicator of financial prudence.
For currency risk management, they suggest natural hedging by matching revenues and costs in local currencies and using forward contracts for remaining exposure. For our listener, what's the elegance and efficiency of natural hedging in managing international financial exposure?
Natural hedging is an extremely elegant and cost-efficient way to mitigate currency risk in international operations. It involves structuring a company's operations so that its revenues and expenses in a particular foreign currency are roughly equal, creating an inherent offset. For example, if a company incurs manufacturing costs in Chinese yuan for products it also sells to Chinese customers in yuan, the fluctuations in the yuan-USD exchange rate will naturally offset each other. This significantly reduces the need for expensive financial instruments like forward contracts, which then only need to be used for any remaining net exposure. It's about embedding financial stability directly into global operational design, minimizing the impact of currency volatility through smart business structure rather than financial engineering alone.
And for syndicated loan interest rates, they expect LIBOR plus 150 to 200 basis points based on market conditions and credit rating. For an informed professional, while LIBOR is being phased out, what does this spread plus 150 to 200 basis points still tell us about the company's perceived credit risk?
Well, while LIBOR,
London Interbank Offered Rate is indeed being phased out globally and replaced by new benchmarks like SOFR, the concept of a spread remains fundamental in loan pricing. The plus 150 to 200 basis points, which is 1.5% to 2%, refers to the premium above the benchmark rate that the borrower pays. For an informed professional, this spread is a direct indicator of the company's perceived credit risk by the syndicate of banks. A higher spread indicates higher risk or lower creditworthiness, while a tighter spread, close to the benchmark, signifies stronger financial health and lower risk. This particular spread suggests a solid but not elite credit profile, reflecting market conditions and the company's specific financial standing as assessed by lenders for this significant loan.
The loan term is a 5-year term with an option to refinance after 3 years, and they expect covenants like maintaining certain financial ratios such as interest coverage and leverage ratios, and possibly agree to limitations on additional borrowing. For a professional, what are the critical implications if a company were to breach these covenants, and how are they typically monitored?
Loan covenants are legally binding conditions attached to a loan agreement, imposed by lenders to protect their interests, and they are absolutely critical to monitor. They can be affirmative, requiring the borrower to do something, for example, provide financial reports regularly, or negative, restricting certain actions, for example, limiting additional debt or dividend payouts. Maintaining financial ratios like interest coverage, ability to cover interest payments with operating income, and leverage ratios, how much debt a company uses to finance assets, ensures the borrower remains financially healthy enough to repay the loan. The critical implication of a breach is that it can trigger a default event, even if the company is current on its payments. This can lead to penalties, increased interest rates, or even the acceleration of the loan's repayment, requiring immediate full settlement. They are typically monitored through regular financial reporting to lenders and often involve internal audit checks.
To optimize tax efficiency for Asian operations, they're considering establishing a regional holding company in a tax-friendly jurisdiction like Singapore. This highlights strategic tax planning. For a professional, what are the primary benefits a regional holding company offers beyond just lower tax rates?
This is a classic example of sophisticated international tax and corporate structuring. Establishing a regional holding company in a jurisdiction known for its favorable tax treaties and robust legal framework like Singapore offers several primary benefits beyond just a lower headline tax rate. It provides a centralized hub for managing multiple Asian subsidiaries, streamlining cash flow management and intercompany lending. It can facilitate easier repatriation of profits from operating subsidiaries to the holding company, often with reduced withholding taxes due to treaties, before eventual repatriation to the parent. It also offers a stable legal and regulatory environment for intellectual property holding and can enhance the overall perceived credibility and governance of the regional operations. It's about creating an efficient, compliant, and strategically located financial command center for international expansion.
And for repatriation of profits, they're planning the strategy to balance reinvestment needs with tax implications, possibly using intercompany loans or dividends. This is a crucial consideration for multinational corporations. What are the tax implications that need to be balanced here, and what drives the choice between intercompany loans and dividends for repatriation?
Repatriation of profits refers to the process of bringing foreign-earned profits back to the parent company's home country, and it's a critical balancing act for multinational corporations. The tax implications are complex because different countries have varying tax rules on repatriated profits, including withholding taxes and whether the home country taxes foreign-earned income. Balancing reinvestment needs means deciding how much profit to retain within the foreign subsidiary for local growth versus sending it back. The choice between intercompany loans and dividends is driven by several factors. Intercompany loans might be repaid without immediate withholding taxes in some jurisdictions, or can be used to manage liquidity across subsidiaries, whereas dividends could be subject to immediate withholding taxes but signal strong performance to shareholders. It's a nuanced decision based on current tax treaties, future cash needs, and the overall capital allocation strategy.
Finally, for arranging the syndicated loan, they're allowing 2 to 3 months for negotiations and documentation. This provides a realistic lead time for complex financing. What makes this timeline necessary, and what can happen if the company tries to rush such a process?
A 2 to 3 month timeline for a syndicated loan of this size is indeed very realistic and necessary. These are highly complex financial arrangements involving multiple banks, extensive due diligence by all lenders, legal negotiations over intricate loan terms, covenants, and collateral, and detailed documentation.
Rushing this process could lead to several detrimental outcomes: less favorable terms, higher interest rates, stricter covenants, errors in documentation that cause future legal disputes, or even a breakdown of the syndicate as banks don't have adequate time for their internal approvals. Allowing adequate time ensures that all parties can conduct their necessary reviews, negotiate effectively, and finalize a robust financing agreement that truly supports the global expansion without unnecessary pressure or last-minute compromises that could undermine the deal's effectiveness.
Okay, let's shift to improving cost structure. This is about finding smarter ways to operate, making every dollar count. The question, where should we focus our cost reduction efforts, invites a comprehensive strategic discussion, often highlighting areas of untapped efficiency.
Exactly. This segment provides a strategic playbook for optimizing expenses, balancing aggressive cost reduction with maintaining quality and managing sensitive workforce impacts. It highlights a pragmatic approach to financial efficiency, starting with a broad, strategic question that aims to uncover multiple avenues for sustainable savings rather than just one-off cuts. It's about creating a leaner, more agile organization.
So they identify three main areas for cost reduction, though the source implies them as operational efficiency, procurement, and potentially outsourcing real estate. What specific measures are mentioned for operational efficiency, and what potential savings are they aiming for? For a professional, how do you ensure these aren't just superficial cuts?
You're right, the conversation naturally progresses through these key areas. For operational efficiency, the specific measures include implementing lean management principles, automating repetitive tasks, and optimizing supply chain logistics. Lean management focuses on systematically eliminating waste and maximizing value in processes. Automating repetitive tasks frees up human capital for higher value activities and reduces manual errors. Optimizing supply chain logistics finds the most efficient ways to move goods, reducing transport and storage costs. They're aiming for a significant 10 to 15% reduction in operational costs over the next 18 months, based on industry benchmarks. To ensure these aren't superficial cuts, you embed these principles deeply into processes, measure KPIs rigorously, and empower employees at all levels to identify and drive continuous improvement, rather than just imposing arbitrary targets. It's about fundamental transformation, not just trimming.
That's a significant target. What about procurement optimization? What strategies are mentioned there, and how can these truly transform a company's relationship with its suppliers?
For procurement optimization, they suggest three standard best practices: consolidating their supplier base, negotiating volume discounts, and implementing a strategic sourcing process for key materials. Consolidating suppliers means reducing the number of vendors they work with, which immediately increases their purchasing power and simplifies vendor management. Negotiating volume discounts allows them to secure better per unit prices for larger, committed orders. Strategic sourcing involves a more systematic, analytical approach to identifying, evaluating, and engaging suppliers for critical inputs, moving beyond transactional relationships to long-term partnerships focused on value, quality, and innovation. These strategies can profoundly transform supplier relationships, fostering collaboration, driving joint process improvements, and ensuring sustained cost advantages and supply chain resilience rather than just chasing the lowest price.
And they also consider outsourcing non-core functions, specifically identifying IT support, payroll processing, and certain administrative functions as potential areas. For a professional, what are the strategic considerations and long-term implications, both positive and negative, of outsourcing beyond just immediate cost savings?
Outsourcing non-core functions like IT support, payroll, and administrative tasks offers compelling strategic positives beyond just immediate cost reduction. It allows the company to focus its internal resources and management attention on its core competencies, enhancing strategic focus. It can provide access to specialized expertise, technology, and economies of scale that might not be available internally. However, the long-term implications also include potential negatives. There's the risk of losing control over critical processes, challenges with communication and coordination across different time zones and cultures, and potential data security risks if not managed rigorously. Crucially, there's the impact on internal employee morale and the loss of institutional knowledge. It's a strategic decision that needs careful balancing of benefits against these potential downsides, requiring meticulous contract management and performance monitoring.
A sensitive issue that often comes with cost reduction is workforce impact, with the potential reduction of about 5 to 7% of our workforce. How do they propose managing the potential impact on morale, and what's the role of transparent communication in such situations?
This is a very sensitive but often unavoidable aspect of significant cost restructuring, and managing morale is paramount.
The source highlights ethical best practices by emphasizing transparent communication, offering retraining opportunities where possible, and providing outplacement services for affected employees. Transparent communication is critical. It builds trust, reduces uncertainty and anxiety among remaining employees, and ensures everyone understands the rationale for the changes. Retraining opportunities offer a pathway for internal redeployment, preserving valuable human capital. Outplacement services demonstrate corporate responsibility by helping affected employees find new roles externally. These measures aim to mitigate the negative impact on morale for both those leaving and for the remaining workforce, fostering a perception of fairness and care even during difficult transitions, which is vital for maintaining productivity.
And for real estate optimization, they plan to consolidate office spaces and implement hot desking to reduce our real estate costs by up to 20%. This is a significant cost-saving measure, especially in today's environment. How does this strategy reflect evolving workplace trends, and what hidden benefits or challenges might it present?
This is a highly relevant and impactful measure, particularly with the acceleration of hybrid and remote work models. Consolidating office spaces means reducing their physical footprint, directly cutting rental or ownership costs, a major fixed expense. Implementing hot desking, where employees don't have assigned desks but use available workstations on demand, maximizes space utilization and allows for smaller overall office requirements. A 20% reduction in real estate costs is substantial. Beyond savings, hidden benefits can include a more dynamic, collaborative work environment and reduced carbon footprint. Challenges, however, can include managing employee preferences for assigned spaces, ensuring sufficient available desks during peak times, and maintaining team cohesion when employees are not always co-located. It requires careful planning and cultural adaptation.
They propose a phased approach over 24 months, starting with quick wins in procurement and gradually implementing larger structural changes. This shows a methodical plan. And how do they ensure these cost reductions don't impact quality or customer satisfaction, which can be a common pitfall of aggressive cost cutting?
A phased approach over 24 months is a prudent way to manage such extensive changes, minimizing disruption and allowing the organization to adapt gradually. Starting with quick wins in procurement builds momentum, demonstrates early success, and provides credibility. To ensure quality and customer satisfaction aren't compromised, they emphasize establishing clear KPIs to monitor quality and satisfaction levels. This means defining measurable indicators for things like product defect rates, customer service response times, or customer satisfaction scores, and actively tracking them. The crucial part is the commitment to adjust our strategies if we see any negative impacts, meaning they're ready to course correct if cost-cutting begins to erode the core value proposition. It's a balanced approach, aggressive on cost, but vigilant on maintaining core business objectives.
They also plan to invest in energy-efficient equipment and explore renewable energy options for energy costs, highlighting sustainable practices with financial benefits. From a strategic perspective, how does this initiative align cost reduction with broader corporate responsibility goals, and what long-term value does it create?
This is a smart dual-benefit strategy that perfectly aligns cost reduction with broader corporate responsibility and ESG goals. Investing in energy-efficient equipment directly reduces ongoing utility expenses, offering a tangible financial return over time through lower operating costs. Exploring renewable energy options can also lead to long-term cost stability by reducing reliance on volatile fossil fuel prices and may also unlock tax incentives, subsidies, or carbon credits. Beyond the direct financial benefits, these initiatives enhance the company's public image, improve its sustainability ratings, and appeal to environmentally conscious investors and consumers, creating long-term brand value and resilience in a world increasingly focused on climate impact. It's a prime example of doing well by doing good.
And finally, they'll be incentivizing managers by tying a portion of their bonuses to achieving specific cost reduction goals while maintaining performance standards. This aligns individual incentives with company goals. What's the behavioral economics behind this kind of incentive structure? And how does the maintaining performance standards clause act as a critical safeguard?
This is a powerful mechanism for driving behavioral change and ensuring accountability. By directly linking a portion of managers' bonuses to specific cost reduction targets, the company creates a strong financial incentive for them to actively seek out efficiencies within their departments. This taps into the psychological principle of self-interest aligning with corporate objectives. Crucially, the while maintaining performance standards caveat acts as a vital safeguard. Without it, managers might make aggressive cuts that harm quality, customer satisfaction, innovation, or other key operational metrics in pursuit of short-term bonus payouts. This clause ensures that cost reduction is pursued intelligently and strategically, without unintended negative consequences, aligning individual efforts directly with the company's broader financial and quality objectives. It's about optimizing, not just cutting.
Let's move to dividend policy. It's a delicate balancing act, isn't it? Between rewarding shareholders and retaining capital for future growth. Our discussion starts by asking, what's our current payout ratio? This immediately sets the stage for a critical capital allocation discussion.
Absolutely. This segment truly unpacks the nuances of dividend strategies, showing how companies make critical decisions about returning value to shareholders while simultaneously maintaining financial health and strategic flexibility. The opening question immediately zeroes in on a key metric for understanding a company's philosophy on shareholder returns versus internal reinvestment.
So their current payout ratio is 40% of net income, consistent for 3 years. For our professional listener, what does this consistency tell us about management's capital allocation philosophy, and what does it signal to the market beyond just a predictable income stream?
The payout ratio is the percentage of a company's net income it distributes as dividends. A 40% payout ratio means 40 cents of every profit dollar goes to shareholders, and 60 cents is retained for reinvestment or strengthening the balance sheet. Its consistency over 3 years is highly significant. It signals predictability and reliability to investors, making the stock attractive to income-focused portfolios. But beyond that, it communicates management's confidence in the company's ability to consistently generate enough earnings to support that level of payout and fund its growth initiatives with the retained earnings. It speaks to a disciplined and mature capital allocation philosophy that balances rewarding shareholders with sustaining the business's future.
And how does that compare to the industry? It's slightly below the industry average of 45%, but with a competitive dividend yield at 3.2%. This provides critical competitive context. For a professional, what is the strategic insight to glean from this apparent discrepancy?
This comparison is crucial for understanding the company's competitive positioning and strategic choices. Being slightly below the industry average payout ratio of 45% suggests a slightly more conservative approach, retaining a larger portion of earnings for internal reinvestment, perhaps indicating higher growth opportunities or a desire to build a stronger financial cushion. However, maintaining a competitive dividend yield at 3.2% means that, relative to the share price, the actual cash return to investors is still attractive compared to peers. The strategic insight is that they are finding a sweet spot, supporting growth while still offering a compelling income stream, attracting a broad base of investors rather than just pure growth or pure income seekers. It highlights management's deliberate capital allocation strategy.
Given recent performance, they propose a modest increase to 45%, which would align with the industry average and signal confidence to investors. What immediate impact would this have on cash reserves and investment capacity, and how precisely do they balance those trade-offs to ensure sustainable growth?
Increasing the payout ratio to 45% would immediately reduce their cash reserves by approximately $10 million annually. This is the direct trade-off. More cash for shareholders means less cash internally. However, the crucial insight here is that they would still maintain sufficient liquidity for planned investments. This indicates a careful prior calculation. They've assessed their future capital needs for growth and expansion and determined that even with the increased dividend, they retain enough internal funding capacity without jeopardizing strategic initiatives. This balance signals confidence in future cash flows to cover both increased payouts and strategic investments, reassuring investors that the company isn't sacrificing future growth for short-term payouts. It's a sign of a robust internal financial model.
They also consider tax implications, noting no significant changes in dividend tax laws expected, but still advising to consult with our tax advisors. And share buybacks are discussed as an alternative, being more tax efficient and provide more flexibility, but potentially less appealing to income-focused investors. For a professional, what are the primary strategic reasons a company might choose buybacks over dividends or vice versa?
This discussion highlights the two primary ways companies return capital to shareholders, each with distinct strategic rationales. Dividends are direct cash payments per share. They provide a regular income stream, appealing particularly to income-focused investors or those seeking steady cash flow, and signal consistent profitability. Share buybacks involve the company repurchasing its own shares from the open market. This reduces the number of outstanding shares, which typically increases the earnings per share, EPS, and often the stock price. For investors, the return comes through capital gains, which can be more tax efficient in some jurisdictions compared to dividend income. Buybacks offer greater flexibility because they can be initiated or paused without signaling instability, unlike dividend cuts, which can severely punish a stock.
The choice often depends on the company's specific growth opportunities, market conditions, and the preferences of its existing shareholder base.
The proposed modest increase in dividends shouldn't negatively impact our credit rating given our strong balance sheet. And the market message is that it signals confidence in our future cash flows and commitment to returning value to shareholders, potentially attracting more long-term investors. This highlights the communicative and strategic aspects of dividend policy.
These points perfectly illustrate the multifaceted strategic communication inherent in dividend policy. A company's credit rating is a measure of its ability to meet its financial obligations, and increasing debt or significantly reducing liquidity could negatively impact it. However, with a strong balance sheet, a modest dividend increase is unlikely to pose a threat, underscoring financial resilience. The market message is powerful. Raising dividends, even modestly, is a strong, tangible signal of management's optimism about the company's future financial performance and its dedication to shareholder returns. This can make the stock more attractive to long-term investors who value consistent income and a company committed to sharing its success. It's about perception, trust, and signaling financial health to the broader investment community as much as the numbers themselves.
They recommend an annual review with the flexibility to make adjustments, and they consider a progressive dividend policy as attractive. But note it requires confidence in our ability to sustain increasing payouts over time. For a professional, what are the inherent risks of committing to a progressive dividend policy if future earnings become less predictable?
A progressive dividend policy is where a company consistently increases its dividend payments each year, even if by a small amount. This signals immense confidence in the company's long-term earnings growth and financial stability, making it highly attractive to investors seeking predictable, growing income streams. However, the inherent risk of committing to such a policy, especially if future earnings become less predictable, is significant. Any cut or even a pause in this policy can severely damage investor trust, lead to a sharp decline in stock price, and significantly harm the company's reputation for financial predictability. It traps management into a commitment that might become unsustainable during economic downturns or periods of lower profitability, making it suitable only for companies with extremely stable and predictable cash flows.
Special dividends are also an option for returning excess cash to shareholders without committing to permanent increases, especially after exceptional performance years. That offers flexibility. What kind of scenarios would typically prompt a special dividend, and what's its primary strategic advantage over a regular dividend increase?
Special dividends are an excellent tool for returning capital when a company has a significant non-recurring surplus of cash, perhaps from a large asset sale, a particularly profitable year, a major legal settlement, or unexpected cost savings. Its primary strategic advantage over a regular dividend increase is precisely that flexibility. It does not imply a commitment to future, ongoing payments. This allows the company to reward shareholders for exceptional performance without setting a precedent for a permanently higher dividend that might be unsustainable in less profitable years. It's a way to share one-time successes and manage excess liquidity without impacting the long-term, stable dividend policy or capital allocation strategy, thereby maintaining financial prudence.
Finally, they ensure they maintain a dividend coverage ratio of at least 2, ensuring we retain sufficient earnings for reinvestment in the business. For a professional, what is the strategic importance of this coverage ratio as a benchmark for dividend sustainability and capital allocation?
The dividend coverage ratio is a crucial measure of a company's ability to pay its dividends from its earnings, typically calculated as net income divided by total dividends paid. A ratio of at least 2 means the company's net income is at least twice the amount of its dividend payments. For a professional, this is an excellent strategic benchmark because it signals a highly conservative and sustainable dividend policy. It ensures there's a significant buffer of earnings available, even after paying dividends, for crucial reinvestment in the business for growth, debt reduction, or unexpected expenses. It directly addresses the delicate balance between rewarding shareholders and retaining sufficient capital to fund future strategic initiatives, ensuring the company doesn't overextend itself with dividend payments at the expense of its long-term financial health and operational stability.
All right, our final topic, annual audit preparation. This is a crucial process, ensuring the integrity and accuracy of a company's financial reporting. Our final deep dive begins with, how are we preparing? Signaling the meticulous, high-stakes nature of this annual exercise.
Exactly. This conversation provides an inside look at the meticulous preparation required for an annual audit, from addressing key risk areas and strengthening internal controls to managing new accounting standards and complex valuations. It underscores the paramount importance of transparency and accuracy in financial reporting, which is crucial for maintaining stakeholder trust, regulatory compliance, and a company's reputation in the capital markets.
So preparation begins with an internal pre-audit review focusing on key risk areas identified in previous audits. This immediately highlights a proactive approach. For an informed professional, why are revenue recognition, inventory valuation, and our international transfer pricing policies perennial audit hotspots, and what makes them inherently complex?
This proactive internal review is indeed a best practice, signaling a commitment to identify and address issues internally before external auditors arrive. Revenue recognition, inventory valuation, and international transfer pricing policies are perennial audit hotspots, precisely because they are inherently complex areas prone to judgment, estimates, and potential manipulation. Revenue recognition rules can be intricate, particularly with contracts over time or multiple performance obligations. Inventory valuation requires meticulous tracking of costs, allowances for obsolescence, and can significantly impact reported assets and profits. International transfer pricing, dealing with transactions between related entities in different countries, is highly scrutinized by tax authorities globally due to its impact on taxable income, and is a frequent area of challenge and adjustment. These areas require significant management judgment and are high risk for potential misstatement, making them top targets for auditors.
On accounting policy changes, they've implemented the new lease accounting standard, which will significantly impact our balance sheet. That's a major regulatory change. And they're confident in the implementation, but suggesting the internal audit team do a detailed review before the external auditors arrive. This shows prudence. What's the strategic advantage of this double check from the internal audit team?
This new lease accounting standard, like ASC 842 or IFRS 16, was indeed a monumental change, requiring companies to recognize virtually all leases on their balance sheets as right-of-use assets and lease liabilities. This had a profound impact on financial statements, especially for companies with extensive operating leases. The company's confidence in their implementation is positive, but the suggestion for the internal audit team to conduct a detailed review before the external auditors arrive is a sign of excellent prudence and robust governance. This double check provides a crucial, independent internal assurance layer, catching any lingering issues, inconsistencies, or interpretations before they are exposed to external scrutiny. It streamlines the external audit process, reduces potential findings, and signals to external auditors that the company is highly prepared and committed to accuracy, fostering trust and efficiency.
What about internal control weaknesses? They've addressed minor issues from last year, but are still working on improving our IT general controls. And how are they documenting these improvements to satisfy auditors?
Internal controls are the processes and procedures put in place to safeguard assets, ensure data accuracy, and promote operational efficiency. Addressing minor issues from last year shows continuous improvement efforts. The fact that they're still working on improving our IT general controls is a critical point. IT general controls, ITGCs, are foundational to the integrity and reliability of all IT systems that process financial data. They include access security, program change management, and data backup and recovery. Weaknesses here can compromise the entire financial reporting system. To document these improvements and satisfy auditors, they're maintaining a comprehensive control matrix and have implemented new governance risk and compliance (GRC) software. This robust documentation allows them to meticulously track changes, systematically test controls, and demonstrate to auditors that internal controls are effective, continuously monitored, and actively improved, which is paramount for compliance and maintaining data integrity.
They're also scanning the horizon for new accounting standards, with upcoming changes to financial instrument accounting requiring preparation for next year. This highlights the dynamic regulatory environment. For a professional, what are the organizational challenges in proactively preparing for such complex regulatory shifts, and how does this foresight benefit the company?
The financial regulatory landscape is indeed constantly evolving, making horizon scanning a crucial part of audit preparation. New accounting standards, especially in complex areas like financial instruments, for example, IFRS 9 or ASC 326, require significant preparation across the organization, updating systems, training staff, reevaluating business processes, and potentially impacting financial models. The organizational challenges include dedicating resources, managing cross-functional coordination, IT, finance, legal, and interpreting complex new rules. This foresight benefits the company immensely by allowing them to proactively prepare, avoiding last-minute scrambling, costly errors, and potential non-compliance issues. It ensures a smoother transition to new reporting requirements, maintains audit efficiency, and ultimately contributes to the credibility and accuracy of financial statements, fostering investor confidence.
To ensure disclosure accuracy, they're implementing a disclosure checklist and are conducting a peer review process for all significant disclosures. This really emphasizes rigor in reporting. Why is this level of rigor so crucial in today's transparent yet complex financial reporting environment?
Absolutely. Financial statement disclosures are where a company provides additional context and crucial detail beyond the main financial statements, offering deeper insights into policies, risks, and commitments. Ensuring their accuracy and completeness is vital for transparency and compliance. A comprehensive disclosure checklist helps ensure all required information is included and consistent. A peer review process, where knowledgeable colleagues review each other's work, adds another layer of scrutiny, catching potential errors, inconsistencies, or omissions that could be missed by a single reviewer. This level of rigor is crucial because, in today's environment, omissions or misstatements in disclosures can lead to significant regulatory fines, investor lawsuits, and severe reputational damage. It builds and maintains trust with the market and regulators.
With the recent expansion, they're reassessing reportable segments, possibly adding a new geographic segment. This reflects adapting reporting to business growth. And for intangible asset valuation from a recent acquisition, they're engaging a third-party valuation specialist. This highlights the complexity of M&A accounting. For a professional, why is third-party valuation for intangibles so critical, and what makes these assets particularly challenging to value?
Reassessing reportable segments is a direct consequence of business growth and geographical expansion. Segment reporting provides investors with detailed financial information about different parts of a company's operations, whether by product line, geographical region, or customer group, enhancing transparency. Engaging a third-party valuation specialist for intangible assets acquired in M&A is absolutely critical because intangibles like brand names, patents, customer relationships, or software are notoriously difficult to value internally due to their subjective nature and lack of active markets. An independent expert provides a robust and defensible valuation that external auditors will accept, ensuring the acquisition's financial impact is accurately reflected and compliant with complex accounting standards. It adds an essential layer of objectivity and credibility to a highly complex and often scrutinized area of M&A accounting.
What areas require significant judgments or estimates? They mention impairment testing of goodwill and the valuation of our pension obligation. For a professional, why are these particularly complex, and how do they impact the reliability of financial statements?
These are profoundly complex because they rely heavily on management's subjective judgments and future assumptions, rather than just verifiable historical data, making them high-risk areas for auditors. Impairment testing of goodwill is required periodically to ensure that the value of goodwill, an intangible asset from acquisitions, hasn't diminished. This involves complex projections of future cash flows, discount rates, and market conditions. If these projections don't support the recorded goodwill, a non-cash impairment charge must be taken, which can be significant and directly impact net income. The valuation of pension obligations similarly involves actuarial assumptions about employee life expectancy, salary increases, and expected returns on plan assets. Even small changes in these assumptions can lead to large swings in the reported liability. Their complexity impacts the reliability of financial statements because they are inherently less precise than other figures, and auditors must ensure the underlying assumptions are reasonable and well supported.
And to add an extra layer of assurance for these complex areas, they suggest having their assumptions reviewed by external experts to ensure they're reasonable and supportable. How does this practice enhance the credibility of the financial statements, particularly for these subjective estimates?
This is an excellent practice, significantly enhancing the credibility and defensibility of the financial statements. Given the subjective nature and potential material impact of these judgments and estimates, having the underlying assumptions reviewed by independent external experts provides a crucial objective validation. These experts bring specialized knowledge in areas like actuarial science, valuation methodologies, or industry-specific forecasts, ensuring that the assumptions are realistic, sound, and consistent with market realities. This external validation provides comfort to both management and external auditors, reducing the risk of audit findings and enhancing the overall integrity of the financial statements, particularly in these challenging, judgment-intensive areas. It's a proactive step to build confidence.
Finally, they're scheduling a meeting with the audit committee to review preparation progress with a comprehensive pre-audit report. This emphasizes governance and oversight. For a professional, what is the audit committee's critical role in this process, and what message does this engagement send to the board and external stakeholders?
This is the capstone of robust audit preparation and transparent governance. The audit committee, typically composed of independent board members, plays a critical oversight role in financial reporting, internal controls, and the external audit process. Scheduling a meeting to review the comprehensive pre-audit report demonstrates deep transparency, accountability, and the company's commitment to financial integrity. It allows the audit committee to be fully informed, raise any questions, provide strategic guidance, and ultimately approve the readiness before the external auditors even begin their formal work. This level of engagement ensures a smoother, more efficient audit process and sends a powerful message to the board, investors, and regulators that financial reporting is taken with utmost seriousness and subject to rigorous independent oversight, fulfilling their fiduciary duties to shareholders and maintaining market confidence.
Wow, what a deep dive. We've navigated the intricate waters of financial statements, investment strategies, budgeting, risk management, acquisitions, system modernization, global expansion financing, cost reduction, dividend policies, and even audit preparations. The sheer breadth of these conversations highlights how central financial acumen is to any business professional. It's truly about being able to speak like a professional in every sense.
Indeed. Beyond the numbers and the strategic outcomes, this deep dive has also been about the language of finance itself, the precision, the clarity, and the structured approach used to convey complex ideas. Mastering these conversational patterns and the specific terminology allows you not just to understand the financial landscape, but to actively shape it. It's about being able to confidently explain why a number matters, how a strategy will be executed, and what the implications are for the business, translating data into dialogue.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? It means that true financial fluency isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about confidently articulating their story, asking the right incisive questions, and contributing meaningfully to strategic decisions. It's about elevating your ability to engage in the most critical business conversations with authority and insight.
This raises an important question for you to mull over. In a world where financial data is abundant and easily accessible, how much more valuable does the skill of translating that complex information into clear, actionable, and impactful conversations truly become for driving real business outcomes and career advancement?